Chapter 1056 Queen of Thorns Ship. Gu Shan was still conversing with the war god UI. Water god evolved from humanity's large-scale war system, while chaos grew stronger through spreading. Then, where exactly did they come from? Gu Shan pursued. The war god UI remained silent. Obviously, it didn't want to say anything. Gu Shan could only give up. Using his inner sight to scan his thoughts, he found that the star chart left behind by the Earth Creator had already disappeared. The Earth Creator didn't leave any information about Water God's whereabouts. Gu Shan thought for a long time, considered various possibilities, and couldn't help but sigh. There's too little information. Right now, the Demon King Order is like a startled bird, completely unreliable. If only I could use it to awaken Water God. The power of the human army cannot be underestimated, and if it has the space to grow and evolve, the Soul Shrieker might not necessarily be its match. This way, the Soul Shrieker wouldn't be able to focus on me. Secondly, with a new order as its opponent, Chaos wouldn't be able to turn the 900 million world layers into a mess. Gu Shan thought for a bit and finally decided on what he wanted to do. He asked, War God UI, I have one last question. Ask. If the apocalypse gets too close, will order and chaos work together to fight against the apocalypse? The war god UI replied, They will fight against the apocalypse separately. This answer was ingenious enough to illustrate the relationship between the two. Gu Shan nodded and stopped talking to the war god UI. He turned his inner sight to another UI. The red UI, Demon King Order. Gu Shan called out, Come out, we need to talk. A line of eye-catching red text appeared on the Demon King Order. UI, frowny face, please flee as soon as possible. The envoy of chaos is approaching. Reading this line of text, Gu Shan cleared his throat. About that, I want to tell you, other than fleeing, there's something else we can do. Another line of eye-catching red text appeared on the Demon King Order. Order has been thoroughly defeated. Please flee as soon as possible. The envoy of chaos is approaching. Gu Shan clicked her tongue. Could it be that order had lost until the fight? Gu Shan considered her words for a bit, then encouraged him. There's no need to feel discouraged. I've already killed the Soul Shrieker in the Age of Old. You should still remember that. So what we should do now is to plan and think of a better way to kill it again. Don't be afraid of it. As long as we work hard together, we can definitely do it. After Gu Shan finished speaking, a few lines of red text quickly appeared on the Demon King Order. The era of chaos has descended. The Soul Shrieker's strength is rapidly increasing and will soon reach a point where you will never be able to catch up. So the only thing we can do now is run for your life. Gu Shan stared blankly at these lines of red words for a while. This order could no longer be communicated with properly. It was also called the Demon King Order. Indeed, the situation was very urgent. But what else can you do with your current state? Gu Shan lost her patience. He told the Demon King Order, about your problem. It's like this: if you're still this weak, I'm going to find a dying person, put you in, then throw you to the envoy of chaos. Truthfully, I don't need to die with a trashy order. Like you, Gu Shan continued with an indifferent and emotionless tone. I'm sure you know that if I was able to kick you out in the Age of Old, I can still do the same now. Hearing that, all the content on the Demon King Order, SUI, disappeared. A moment of silence. 2 breaths. 3 breaths. A line of blood-red text quickly appeared. Frowny face, what do you want to say? This order is all ears. Gu Shan clapped her hands and enthusiastically said, That's more like it. It would have been much better if you had this attitude from the start. Another line of text appeared on the blood-red UI. Venerable Demon King of Condemnation, please speak slowly. Gu Shan nodded. If you've regained your composure, then let me ask you, why didn't you awaken the other orders to fight against chaos together? The blood-red text paused briefly before displaying new lines of content. Frowny face, I only had a single mission, that is to summon the Demon King. Gu Shan asked, Did you manage to do that? Half done. Half? How so? Gu Shan was surprised. The Demon King Order explained, Because the Soul Shrieker entered the Fallen Zones at a crucial moment, my summoning wasn't completed and only summoned a corpse. Where's the corpse? Gu Shan asked. The Soul Shrieker destroyed it, the Demon King Order replied. Gu Shan recalled the information she had gathered and nodded. I remember now. The Soul Shrieker seemed to have fought against that corpse for a very long time. If that corpse had such power, why didn't you continue the summoning? The Demon King Order replied. All resources have been used up. The Soul Shrieker didn't give me enough time to arrange a second summoning. Gu Shan sighed. And so, just as I thought, the only thing you can do right now is to awaken more orders to fight against the Soul Shrieker together. That's not right. I only had a single mission. That is to summon the Demon King, the Demon King Order replied. Gu Shan shrugged. But the current situation doesn't allow you to summon the Demon King. You need other orders to appear that would at least be able to divert the Soul Shrieker's attention, the Demon King Order insisted. No, I only had a single mission. That is to summon the Demon King. Gu Shan went silent. He muttered in thought. Seems like I'll need to find a dying person to put you inside, then throw him to the envoy of chaos. The Demon King Order immediately replied. Please don't do that. If you do, the countless world within the void will be completely taken over by chaos. What does that have to do with me? Gu Shan was annoyed. I'm going to find a person right now. Forget it. Let's find an animal and put you inside. After saying so, he turned to Zhang Young-ho and shouted, Hey, Ying-hao, you've been to Riddle World before. What animal is the most common in this world? Zhang Young-ho was discussing chaos with Yi Fei-li, so he was a bit surprised when he heard this. The most common animal? Although he didn't understand what Gu Shan meant, Zhang Young-ho still seriously thought about it and answered, The most common animal in Riddle World would be pigs. Pigs? That's right, pigs. There are pigs everywhere. Gu Shan then stood up and walked toward the edge of the deck. He muttered, I'm going to catch a pig, put the order inside, then give it to the Soul Shrieker. That way, I'll be safe. Boss was still lying there. Hearing his muttering, he couldn't help but open his eyes a bit and glanced at him. What kind of person was he? He could easily guess what was going on just by listening. Gu Shan's words were quite interesting, as if she was purposely saying it for someone else to hear. But there was no one else around. That was Gu Shan conversing with the final order. Could he be using this method to threaten the order? What a weirdo. Boss closed his eyes again. Gu Shan slowly walked to the edge of the deck and was about to jump down. A line of blood-red text quickly appeared and stopped him in place. Frowny face, Your Excellency. I admit my mistake. Please do not put me inside a pig's body. Why? Gu Shan curiously asked. I have a sacred mission. Do you only have a single mission? That is to summon the Demon King? No, I have another mission, which is to help you awaken the other orders, the Demon King Order replied. Gu Shan raised his thumb and praised. As expected of the Demon King Order, the Demon King Order then continued. But before that, you must first find an order before I can awaken it. This time, it was Gu Shan's turn to be stunned. Find an order? That's right. If I can't even find an order, how am I supposed to awaken it? Gu Shan fell into thought. Find an order? How do I find an order? Gu Shan silently muttered. He couldn't help but turn to Boss. Boss had sent Anna, Su Sher, Ning Yue-chan, and Lin away from the Bramble Bird Kingdom in preparation for the war against chaos. Boss's background is mysterious, and he's also my mutual savior. Would he know where to find an order? Gu Shan immediately asked Boss. Boss closed his eyes and slowly replied, Don't look at me. I used to live in a very secluded place, so I've never had much contact with an order, so of course I wouldn't know where they're hiding. Gu Shan had no choice but to think of a solution himself. In the age of old, in order to help me safely return, Water God was stripped away by the Earth Creator and disappeared without a trace. Where would the Earth Creator place this slumbering card? Please remember this book's domain name. Mobile version. Chapter 1057. Gu Shan dissected everything he knew, analyzed it bit by bit, and deduced it bit by bit. In the end, he let out a long sigh. There's too little information. Water God is currently sleeping inside a card. The Earth Creator peeled off the card and sent itself into the river of time. I don't know where the Earth Creator placed Water God. If I really can't find the Water God card, what should I do? I've actually come into contact with another order, the Heavenly God Order. But the heavenly god order is the demon king order's mortal enemy. Even if I could find it again, the demon king order would perish together with it. I can only go to the giant corpse when I'm breaking through. I can't go right now either. Furthermore, the heavenly god order and demon king order are enemies, so it's probably not as strong as water god. So I still need to find water god. Gu Qin Shan shook his head, slowly sat down on the edge of the deck, and began to seriously think about how to find water god. Queen of Thorns continued to fly through the endless void of space. Time slowly passed. Gu Qin Shan still couldn't come up with a solution. During this time, Lola specifically asked several times where Queen of Thorns should be heading. Gu Qin Shan also couldn't tell him the ship's destination. He could only keep thinking and thinking. A few hours later, Lola came out of the cabin and sat next to Gu Qin Shan. She tilted her head and peeked at Gu Qin Shan. Gu Qin Shan's eyes were covered with a piece of black cloth, his lips were pursed tight, and his thumb was propping up his chin. He was still contemplating. Seeing him like this, Lola silently stood up and left. Another 3 hours later, Lola returned. This time, she didn't peek and instead looked straight at Gu Qin Shan. Gu Qin Shan still maintained his posture without changing at all. He was still contemplating. Lola silently sighed and poked Gu Qin Shan. Lola? Gu Qin Shan seemed to have woken up. Gu Qin Shan, what's wrong? Lola asked. Gu Qin Shan looked at the cute little girl in front of her and suddenly remembered something. Ah, that's right, Lola. Do you have any treasures that can help us find this thing? He asked. Of course, what are you looking for? Lola said happily. Order. Order? Isn't the Demon King order with you? I want to find another order. I've never heard of a treasure that can search for order. To be more precise, it's actually a card that contains the order. Think about it. You're the one with the most treasures after all, Gu Qin Shan said. Lola shook her head and sighed. Treasures that can search for treasures are extremely rare in the first place. The true treasures are all mystic-type creations that need to be fulfilled before they can be activated. Seeing how desperate Gu Qin Shan was, Lola seriously thought for a bit and continued. Most of these items can only search for physical objects, but what you're looking for is a card and an order, which has already gone beyond the realm of physical objects. No matter how I think about it, only a mystic-type treasure-seeking ability with its own intelligence would be able to do it. Don't look at me. I can only touch treasures. I can't search for them. Hearing Lola's explanation, Gu Qin Shan suddenly recalled the colorful rooster. The colorful rooster was an item that carried War God information, so just like Lola said, it had a certain level of intelligence. Perhaps the rooster could find Water God? Unfortunately, the day hasn't ended yet, so the colorful rooster still can't be activated. Gu Qin Shan directly asked the War God UI. War God UI, I want to find the Water God card. Can the colorful rooster give me any clues? Ting. There was a crisp sound. The War God UI replied. Regretfully, War God information can only be collected from within the 900 million world layers that are related to you. As well as new occurrences, it does not have the ability to search for items. Gu Qin Shan sighed helplessly. At this point, Lola looked at his haggard expression and couldn't help but think of something. She shook his arm and said, Don't think about it for now. I'm hungry. I want to eat your cooking, all right? Gu Qin Shan had no choice but to agree. Hearing that, Lola was happy. She bounced towards Zhang Young-ho and Yi Fei Li to help move the table and chairs. Gu Qin Shan took out pots and pans, as well as a variety of cooking utensils and condiments, arranging them on the table. Fine, let's eat something first and get some fresh air. Maybe I'll have some new ideas later. With that in mind, Gu Qin Shan decided to make a good meal. He raised a cleaver and told everyone, All right, I'll be cooking today. Consider it a celebration for us all to be together. Order whatever you want. I want noodles. Yi Fei Li raised her hand. No, today isn't a good time to eat noodles. Gu Qin Shan rejected right away. Then I want egg fried rice. Yi Fei Li changed her mind. That's simple. Sure, Gu Qin Shan agreed. Zhang Young-ho glanced at Yi Fei Li and complained. Can't you be a bit more ambitious? It's so rare for him to cook, and you want egg fried rice? Ahaha, I've gotten used to it since I was still studying. It would be perfect if I had a soft drink. Yi Fei Li happily replied. What about you? Gu Qin Shan looked at Zhang Young-ho. Forget it. I also want egg fried rice, add a ham sausage, and some alcohol, Jang Young-ho said. Gu Qing-shan looked at Lola. I've never eaten egg fried rice before. It sounds pretty good. I'll also eat this, Lola said. Gu Qing-shan then looked at Boss. I've also never eaten egg fried rice before. Sorry for the trouble, Boss smiled and said. All right, we'll eat egg fried rice today, Gu Qing-shan decided. Jang Young-ho sighed. To be able to eat an egg fried rice in the void of space billions of worlds away before the apocalypse. It's quite rare. Lola pulled Yi Fei Li's sleeve and whispered, My Duke, what exactly is egg fried rice? Yi Fei Li also whispered back, Your Majesty, this thing is very simple to make. Many people know how to do it, but I've only seen Gu Qing-shan make it so well that people can't stop praising it. Gu Qing-shan didn't waste any more time and quickly prepared the ingredients. After a few quick and efficient cooking, 5 large plates of egg fried rice were ready to be served. 1 plate per person. She gave Lola a bottle of juice, Yi Fei Li a bottle of champagne, and Jang Young-ho a bottle of liquor. Dash, what would you like to drink? Gu Qing-shan asked Boss. Boss looked at the others and said, Give me a bottle of each. I'll try it. Very well. Gu Qing-shan gave him 3 bottles while mixing a cocktail for herself. Come, let's all have a drink to celebrate that we're not dead yet. Yi Fei Li raised her glass. Jang Young-ho also raised his glass and glared at Yi Fei Li. Pa, how can you make a toast like that? It's to celebrate us being able to enjoy good food together. It's clearly the apocalypse. While we're talking, many worlds are being destroyed by the apocalypse of parallel worlds. Even more worlds are falling into chaos. Yi Fei Li commented. Do you have a solution? Jang Young-ho was still staring at her. I don't, Yi Fei Li dejectedly replied. That's why we need to make sure that we're in a good state right now, so that we can act as soon as anything happens, Jang Young-ho said. All right, Yi Fei Li agreed. Well said, Gu Qing-shan also agreed. Everyone had a drink, then began to eat. Gu Qing-shan's cooking skills were naturally top-notch. Everyone ate and drank, occasionally talking for a bit. It was a rare moment of rest. After eating, Boss went to resurrect himself. Yi Fei Li continued to play with her chaos. UI? Lola went to the ship's cabin. Jang Young-ho took out a bag and gave it to Gu Qing-shan. Help me take care of this. I'll feed the little guy. Gu Qing-shan took a look and found that it was a fresh fish head about the size of 2 palms, giving off a faint magical presence. Gu Qing-shan couldn't help but comment. This ingredient is quite good. Does it not eat egg pie and strawberry pie anymore? Jang Young-ho replied. Those are all junk food. I've already cured its picky eating habits. Gu Qing-shan asked again. Is this a fish from the magical world? It's fine for a human to eat, but it probably can't eat this much. It can. After entering the 900 million world layers, it's actually still slowly growing. So eating this kind of food that contains power will help speed up its growth and evolution, Jang Young-ho replied. All right then, right, it likes sweet things. Gu Qing-shan took the fish head, added a few beneficial spirit herbs, and began to carefully cook it. After a while, the fish head was taken out of the pot and placed on a plate. Smelling the aroma, Boss called out from the other side of the deck. What is this? It smells so good, Jang Young-ho loudly replied. My pet's food. Boss didn't say anything. Gu Qing-shan put the plate on the ground, walked to one side, poured herself a glass of strong liquor, and slowly drank it. Jang Young-ho carefully took out a card and spoke softly. It's time to eat. Come out. The card landed on the deck of the ship. A hole appeared on the deck. A pitch-black kitten crawled out of the hole. It first looked at Jang Young-ho, meowed softly, then was instantly attracted by the fish head that gave off a sweet aroma. Today, our old friend Gu Qing-shan made you a fish head, Jang Young-ho said. Hearing that, the black cat turned to look at Gu Qing-shan. Gu Qing-shan smiled and waved his hand as a greeting. The black cat also nodded to him, then lightly walked up to the plate. He began to eat the fish head. Jang Young-ho stood on one side, about to light a cigarette when he heard a clang. The glass in Gu Qing-shan's hand fell to the ground. What's the matter? Jang Young-ho asked. Gu Qing-shan acted like he didn't hear him at all, his eyes staring straight ahead as he slowly walked forward. He seemed to be giving off an indescribable feeling. But Jang Young-ho felt that something wasn't right. It was very rare for Gu Shan to be this emotional, even if he was trying his best to control his emotions. What happened? Yi Fei Li also noticed that something was wrong with Gu Shan and quickly ran over. Gu Shan waved his hand at Yi Fei Li, signaling that it was nothing. He walked towards the black cat. Please remember this book's domain name. Mobile version. Chapter 1058. Also, I've basically returned all the guild leaders, but many people on the donation ranking have changed their names. I counted, and apart from Silvermang, there seems to be one more guild leader who hasn't returned. I can't find who it is. The guild leader who hasn't returned, please come out and say something. Sorry for the trouble. Also, please get a monthly vote today. Thank you, everyone. World Apocalypse Online, 8 chapters, 20,000 words. Asking for a monthly vote, currently typing. Please wait a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 1059. The fish head smells so good. Black Cat happily ate it. Gu Shan looked at Black Cat and suddenly asked, Inghao, I remember asking Black Cat to bring us together to search for space monster corpses. Ah, that's right, at the time, you asked me if I wanted to be your partner. So we went to the underground casino to cause a ruckus, Zhang Youngho replied. Gu Shan silently nodded. At the time, in order to activate the thaumaturgy, I needed space monster corpses. Black Cat brought me and Zhang Youngho to the underground casino, where they found the space monster corpses. Thinking about it, only a mystic-type treasure hunting ability with its own intelligence would be able to do it. This was what Lola said just now. Mystic-type. Treasure hunting ability, possessing its own intelligence. Black Cat fits the bill perfectly. Gu Shan took a deep breath and stroked Black Cat's fur. Meow. After being stroked for a while, Black Cat felt that it wasn't very professional or comfortable, so it looked up at him. Hey, Gu Shan smiled and said, I lost a card. Can you help me find it? Black Cat looked at him, then at the fish head in front of it. This guy only knows how to cook. It pointed its paw at the fish head and complained, Meow, 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 meow. Zhang Youngho hurriedly crouched down and tried to smooth things over. It said not to touch it when it's eating. We can talk about it after. Gu Shan looked at Black Cat, only to see Black Cat was staring at her with a serious expression. Gu Shan hurriedly smiled apologetically. Ah, yes, of course it's how it should be. It was now that the cat twitched its whiskers and turned back to seriously munch on the fish head. This is a fish head that contains magical power. Not only is it delicious, but also has many other benefits. Don't interrupt me while I'm eating, meow. Zhang Youngho pulled Gu Shan to one side and worriedly said, Although my cat can find a lot of things, I'm afraid that the 900 million world layers is too big. It wouldn't be enough to find the card you mentioned. Has such a thing happened before? Gu Shan asked. Zhang Youngho looked at the black cat and spoke with a gentle tone. In order to help me find an enemy, it ran to several worlds in a row before fainting from exhaustion. Gu Shan thought for a bit and asked, Is the black cat a card now? That's right. After I advanced from a God's Chosen to a card user, my God's Chosen skill turned into a card, Zhang Youngho answered. Is there any way to strengthen this card? There isn't, Zhang Youngho sighed. Ever since I advanced from a God's Chosen to a card user, I found that these summoning abilities are very hard to improve. You haven't asked those who know? Gu Shan asked. I've asked many card users in the underground world, but they all said that it's very slow to improve a card. There's no way around it, Zhang Youngho replied. Gu Shan fell into thought. Wait a minute. That doesn't seem to be the case. Little Dusk is the Angel of Condemnation, the noblest card among all the cards in the 900 million world layers. I seem to recall her mentioning this before. There are 3 ways to improve a card. First, natural advancement. Second, consume other cards. Third, use the materials left behind by the old gods to improve. Natural advancement is the method that Zhang Youngho mentioned, one that all card users of the 900 million world layers regard as the truth. There's a certain technique to consuming other cards. Little Dusk once said that it must be a compatible card. Materials left behind by the old gods. Gu Shan now understood that this old gods probably didn't refer to the divine race, but rather the true gods. The phantom giant that released my soul in Tree's collection world wasn't a divine race. That's why materials left behind by the old gods should be useful. But it's very difficult to find materials left behind by the old gods in this era. However, it would be very difficult to find the materials left behind by the old gods in this era. Because of that, the only realistic way to advance is to consume cards. Guqin Shan looked at the War God UI and muttered, "Show me card." All the notifications on the War God UI disappeared. An Azure card appeared at the center of the UI. All the notifications on the War God UI disappeared. A bright blue card appeared at the center of the UI. On the card, Guqin Shan wielded his sword with both hands. Identity, Envoy of Condemnation. Possess Azure card of Condemnation. True Crimson Demon Spear. Possesses an Azure Condemnation card. True Crimson Demon Spear. Possess Azure Condemnation card. True Crimson Demon Spear. Ability, Card Gathering. Special note. Personal Iris World has been constructed, currently hibernating and accumulating power. Guqin Shan thought for a bit. He lightly tapped the Azure card, True Crimson Demon Spear, with his mind. Information about the True Crimson Demon Spear quickly appeared in his mind. All of this information was already known to Guqin Shan. He tried to communicate with the card with his mind to ask how to evolve the True Crimson Demon Spear. Immediately, the card trembled a bit and replied with the corresponding information. 17 to 18 cards of various shapes and sizes appeared around the True Crimson Demon Spear. Sharp Burial Blade, Soul, Severing Dagger, Fangs of the Frost, Slumbering Dragon, Soul of the Purgatory Flame Cutter, Ancient Gale Crystal. These were all cards that the True Crimson Demon Spear could consume to evolve. 2 lines of notification appeared on the True Crimson Demon Spear. As card UI, frowny face attention. The card must consume other cards according to their order in order for the card's power to steadily increase. Otherwise, there is a risk of collapsing. Special note. Only the Envoy of Condemnation can allow the card to consume other cards of the same nature to help the card evolve. Very well. Guqin Shan clenched his fist tightly. He had tried countless methods, but still couldn't find Water God. But now, he finally saw a glimmer of hope. "Inghao, I think I have a way to help your black cat evolve," Guqin Shan told him. "Really?" Zhang Young-ho joyfully asked. If anyone else had told him this, he wouldn't have believed them. But Guqin Shan wasn't someone who liked to brag. "That's right. After the black cat finishes eating, explain it to it. We'll try to help it evolve together," Guqin Shan told him. He stood up and went to the cabin. A few moments later, Lola came up to the deck with him. "Ah, what a cute cat." Lola's eyes lit up. She crouched down and stroked the black cat with her hand. The black cat's eyes moved a bit, but seeing that it was a cute and beautiful girl like Lola, it let her stroke it and focused on eating the fish head. "What do you think?" Guqin Shan asked Lola. "It's fine, but cards have always been rare items. Especially combat-type cards, they're hard to find. Although I do have a few in reserve, I'm afraid they're not what the black cat needs," Lola replied. Saying so, she couldn't help but ask, "Can you really help a card evolve?" "I think so. Let's try it out later." Guqin Shan was also a bit uncertain. Everyone patiently waited on one side. After the black cat finished eating, Zhang Young-ho hugged in his chest and patiently explained it to him. As the black cat listened, it occasionally glanced at Guqin Shan. It was a card that belonged to Zhang Young-ho, so to give it to someone else to use, it must be fully communicated with. After Zhang Young-ho finished explaining, the black cat curiously looked at Guqin Shan. "Meow, meow, 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 meow," the black cat asked. "It finds it hard to imagine, so it's asking you if you could do it," Zhang Young-ho translated for her. Guqin Shan looked at the black cat and said, "Let's try it together, because the first thing we need to do is confirm which card you're compatible with before we can perform the card fusion." The black cat shrunk its body a bit hesitant. Guqin Shan smiled and continued, "Since Zhang Young-ho has already met up with me, I'll pay for your meals from now on." The black cat was a bit tempted, so it wiggled its ears and said, "Meow, meow, 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 meow." "It said it's fine, but you can't just give a cat food," Zhang Young-ho said. "Don't worry, I'm not that kind of person." Guqin Shan patted his chest and said, Seeing his attitude, the black cat nodded in satisfaction. Poof! It turned back into a card and fell into Jang Young-ho's hand. Jang Young-ho reluctantly gave the card to Gu Qing-shan and couldn't help but ask, "It won't be dangerous, will it?" "It won't," Gu Qing-shan replied. He received the card, only to see a black cat was drawn on top of a large bed, yawning with its eyes closed. "It's full. Will it stop it from devouring other cards if it's full?" At this point, Gu Qing-shan couldn't help but feel a bit anxious. At this point, lines of glowing text appeared on the War God UI frowny face card. Seeking cat, black fur. If the food you give a cat is satisfied, it will lead you to the item you want. Description: this is a newborn kitten. After arriving in the 900 million world layers, its stamina is no longer enough for it to complete a single long-distance search. Description: the kitten desires to grow. Please help it. Gu Qing-shan put this Seeking Cat card next to the True Crimson Demon Spear, placing it in the same column. He touched the card with his mind, and at the same time he silently said, "Evolve." Immediately, numerous cards appeared around the Seeking Cat. These were all cards that it could devour, and they had to be done in order. After reading through them, Gu Qing-shan looked at Lola. Lola held her backpack and seriously asked, "What kind of cards do you need?" "I'll start looking for them right away." The first one doesn't seem to be a card for combat." "Then what is it?" "It's a card called Catnip," Gu Qing-shan replied. Chapter 1060. Lola began to look through her backpack. "Catnip? That's a strange name. I think I've heard of it before," she said. "You've had a cat before?" Jang Young-ho tried asking. "Ah, yes, I did for a while. Where's the cat?" "It ate too well and accidentally evolved into a human form. Currently the captain of my third squad." Jang Young-ho and Gu Qing-shan exchanged glances. Just what kind of food could turn a cat into a human? That's the question. "I got it." Lola took out a card from her backpack and gave it to Gu Qing-shan. Gu Qing-shan received the card, followed the instructions on the card UI, and lightly placed it under the Searching Cat card. A notification popped up. Frowny face, "Would you like to consume this card to help the Searching Cat become stronger?" "Yes," Gu Qing-shan replied. "Please pay 100 soul points to trigger the card's evolution." "Pay." Following Gu Qing-shan's voice, the catnip card slowly scattered into countless glowing particles that were absorbed into the Searching Cat card. A few moments later, a new line of text appeared under the Searching Cat card. "Frowny face, the cat's endurance has greatly increased. About to enter puberty." Gu Qing-shan sighed in relief. "Seems like I can help the black cat evolve even further." Jang Young-ho also sensed it and exclaimed in surprise, "The black cat really is changing." "That's right. Let us continue." He looked at the second card that black cat can consume. "Lola, the second card is dash. What is it?" It's called Love's Touch." "What a strange name. Let me see." Lola searched through her backpack for a bit. Then her face slowly flushed. She took out a pink card and gave it to Gu Qing-shan. Gu Qing-shan felt strange and couldn't help but look at the card. He saw a hand drawn on the card, stretching out an index finger to beckon him. This feeling, Gu Qing-shan looked at the War God UI. Lines of glowing text were displaying the card's attributes. Control card, Touch of Love. This card is a mind control spell. If you use it to pacify your pet, it would be a waste. This is a card used to convey feelings. It's very useful. It can totally... Gu Qing-shan didn't want to look at it anymore, so she tossed in a card in her face. Devour. He ordered. 200 soul points were deducted. The card dispersed, turning into many pink spots of light that gradually fused into the Searching Cat. Below Searching Cat, a new line of words appeared. "Kitty can feel your love and care, and her spiritual power is growing significantly." Gu Qing-shan continued to look at the next card. The next card was called Undaunted. From the name alone, I could tell it's a combat-type card. For some reason, Gu Qing-shan silently sighed in relief. After he told Lola about it, Lola also quickly found this card. The fusion was successful. The fourth card was Cat Agility. The fifth card was Leopard Speed. The sixth card was Graceful Waltz. "Oh no, Gu Qing-shan, I don't have a seventh card here." Lola rummaged through her backpack and said, "It's fine. I think the black cat should be strong enough after evolving so many times in a row, Gu Qingshan replied. He stared at the searching cat, card in his hand. Card, searching cat, black fur. If the food you take out is to the cat's satisfaction, you can describe what you are looking for to it. It will lead you to that item. Description: this is a cat in puberty. It has obtained sufficient power and is gradually becoming stronger. Description: it is now very grateful to you. Gu Qingshan gave the card to Zhang Youngho. Let's try again, Gu Qingshan said. Zhang Youngho was also very excited and threw the card out. The card fell to the ground and formed a black hole. A black cat crawled out from the hole. Its entire body expanded in size, and it was in high spirits. Its eyes were bright and full of expression. Meow! The black cat let out a powerful cry. Baby, come! Zhang Youngho happily opened his arms, wanted to hug it. But the black cat didn't pay any attention to its owner. Instead, it ran in front of Gu Qingshan, raised its paws and bowed. Gu Qingshan was impressed. This cat is very polite. Gu Qingshan hurriedly said, no need to be so polite. In a bit. Before Gu Qingshan could finish, the black cat had already left him, ran next to Lola's feet, hugged Lola's calf with both paws, and rubbed its head against it. It's fine. No need to be so affectionate. Lola smiled and rubbed the cat's head. Meow. The little black cat responded in an ingratiating manner and continued to rub its head against Lin Huang's hand. After a while, it reluctantly stopped. Gu Qingshan crouched down in front of the black cat, cleared his throat, and said, I have something I want to find. Meow. The black cat nodded and waited for him to continue. Gu Qingshan continued. I lost a card before. Please help me find it. Meow, meow, meow. Zhang Youngho translated. It's asking what kind of card it is and needs a description, Gu Qingshan replied. It's a large-scale war system card of humanity. A woman wearing a long white dress is depicted on the card. Her name is Water God. The black cat raised its head and looked in all four directions in the void. It doubtfully asked, Meow, meow? Meow, 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 meow. Zhang Youngho continued to translate. It says it feels strange. The information is a bit unclear. It doesn't know when you lost this card. Gu Qingshan was surprised. It was several 10,000 years ago, Zhang Youngho. Lola, the black cat. The black cat glanced at Gu Qingshan and called out in dissatisfaction. Meow. Meow, meow. I want you to tell me earlier if there's a similar situation next time, Zhang Youngho replied. Gu Qingshan apologetically said, Sorry about that. I forgot. Please help me look for it. The black cat nodded. It crouched there, staring at the void of space with its round black eyes. A few moments later, the black cat's pupils shrunk into crescent-shaped vertical slits, then completely dispersed to reveal a mass of black fog. It seemed to be observing something. Meow. Meow, meow, meow. All of a sudden, the black cat raised its paw and pointed in a certain direction. It said it's hard to find, but I still found it. Now change direction and fly in that direction. Zhang Youngho reached his hand out and pointed in the same direction as the black cat. Gu Qingshan was overjoyed and hurriedly said, Lola, turn the ship around and fly in the direction black cat is pointing. All right, I'll go right away, Lola replied. She disappeared in front of everyone. A few moments later, the Queen of Thorns' ship drew a long arc in the space vortex, heading in a certain direction. At this point, Zhang Youngho couldn't help but ask, Qingshan, I've never heard of a card being able to evolve by devouring other cards. Is this a unique ability of yours? Gu Qingshan was in a good mood and smiled. That's right. In the entire world, there's only one other person who has this ability with me. There's only one other person besides you? That's right. She's a card-type life form. In the end, she was the one who gave me this ability. Yifei Li came closer and asked in surprise, A card-type life form? In that case, she can evolve by devouring other cards? Gu Qingshan recalled Little Shi's words about becoming stronger and nodded. That's right. She should be able to evolve this way as well. After all, she's also a card at this point. Gu Qingshan went silent. Wait a minute, I'm also a card. Chapter 1061. Gu Qingshan stood still and crossed her arms in thought. Through devouring cards, the black cat had already entered puberty from infancy. Since I'm also a card, What kind of effect would it have if he used cards to advance to the next level? I'm already a Paragon Realm cultivator. Would there be any problems if I use cards to advance? I've never thought about this before. Guqing Shan couldn't help but pat her head. Because I've always been a cultivator from the past life, until now, my line of thought has been limited. In truth, the billions of worlds had already silently revealed a certain truth to me. Even the bygone-era humans were able to create their own worlds within the space vortex. Even the individual soul artifacts that the bygone-era humans casually threw away were able to imitate their abilities and create billions of world layers. The bygone-era humans were only visitors from a parallel world that was defeated by the apocalypse. As for the parallel world that was still fighting against the apocalypse, who knew how terrifyingly powerful it was? Such a vast number of parallel worlds, such an unfathomable space vortex, such an unimaginably endless apocalypse. How could I be limited by the line of thought of a cultivator in such an era? With that in mind, Guqing Shan suddenly felt enlightened. Regardless of the consequences of using cards to advance, I have to give it a try. There are too many unknowns. If I don't explore them and grasp new knowledge and abilities, I'll forever be a frog at the bottom of a well. Let's do it. Guqing Shan focused her mind on the card UI and stared at the Azure card. Sword Cultivator Guqing Shan. This was my life card. Guqing Shan tried to touch this card with her mind and muttered, "Evolve unlike the true Crimson Demon Spear and Searching Cat cards. This time, the cards he needed to advance didn't appear around the card. Instead, lines of notification quickly appeared frowny face to open the path to advancement as an envoy of condemnation. The conditions required are different from normal cards. The cards you need must come from the inner plane, because while the envoy of condemnation might exist in parallel worlds, it was born in the inner plane. Guqing Shan froze. Ah, yes, some things were almost beyond his understanding of the world. For example, the inner world. The inner plane was similar to the eternal abyss. It wasn't a world created by the bygone-era humans and individual combat soul artifacts. It originally existed within the space vortex. So what exactly was it? At this time, flashing text kept appearing on the card's interface, reminding Guqing Shan to pay attention. Guqing Shan sighed and continued reading. Your advancement requires an inner plane card. However, as your strength is too weak, you cannot reach the minimum strength of an envoy of condemnation. You will be able to use some special ordinary cards to help you understand the power and techniques of your profession, preparing for the improvement of your strength condemnation card. Sword Cultivator Guqing Shan. Please choose the type you wish to comprehend from power and skill. Please note, you can only choose one. Guqing Shan looked at her natal card. On the surface of the Azure card, he was holding two swords in his hands, lightly floating in midair. I choose skill. Sword Cultivator Guqing Shan. You are a cold weapon card. Your skill system is swordsmanship. You will need the following cards to help you improve your swordsmanship. Then, a few cards appeared on the card interface, neatly arranged in a row. The first card was Elemental Wine Pursuit Strike. This was a normal card. Guqing Shan called out, "Lola, I'm here, what is it?" Lola appeared next to him. "Ah, I might need a bit of your help," Guqing Shan said a bit embarrassedly. "I really am a bit embarrassed. I've already used too many of her cards." Lola was a sharp person, so she immediately noticed the change in Guqing Shan's expression. "Guqing Shan, don't be so hesitant with me," Lola angrily said. "You saved my life, and I'm fighting alongside you right now," she loudly declared. "If paying a few treasures can help our group become stronger and help us fight against those monsters in the apocalypse, I wouldn't hesitate saying so." She casually grabbed something from the void of space. A glittering golden treasure chest was pulled out from the void of space and casually tossed onto the deck. Clang! The treasure chest opened, revealing various beautiful gems on the ground. "My luck is really bad this time," Lola muttered, then took out the energy drink Yifei Li gave her and took a big gulp. "Look, this is Yifei Li's energy drink. I didn't even try to be polite and ask for a lot of it." Lola showed the can to Guqing Shan. Guqing Shan looked at Yifei Li. She was sitting next to Boss, giving a can to Boss. "This is the last can for today," Yifei Li reminded Boss. The boss was surrounded by a pile of empty cans, and he was in high spirits. He smiled. I feel like I've regained a bit of my strength. This is such a good feeling. Saying so, he received Yifei Li's Soul Points energy drink and started gulping it down. Yifei Li's face was covered in cold sweat, as if she was completely drained. Gu Qingshan smiled. Lola is very considerate, and she's telling the truth. She's a sensible child, so she's eager to use her power to help me. Gu Qingshan looked at Lola and spoke with a gentle voice. All right, I won't be polite. Please help me find another card. What are you going to do this time? Lola asked. Gu Qingshan replied. I found a way to increase my strength, but it also costs a card. Lola immediately replied. No problem. Just tell me what card you want. The card is called Elemental Wind Pursuit Strike. All right, wait here. Saying so, Lola looked down and searched through her backpack. A few moments later, she found the card. This was an attack-type card. As soon as it was used, it would unleash a large-scale wind blade attack, similar to a hurricane. Gu Qingshan received the card and put on a UI. Consume, he ordered. After deducting 100 soul points from him, the card scattered into countless sprites of light that were absorbed into the condemnation card. Sword cultivator Gu Qingshan, a wondrous sensation was felt. Gu Qingshan felt like he had returned to the moment before. The moment when he risked his life against the mythical creature of chaos. He felt himself wielding the earth sword once again, exerting all of his strength to unleash that one strike. That was an eruption of power that surpassed his usual level under the pressure of death. It was an unprecedented strike. This feeling, so that's how I did it, Gu Qingshan blankly muttered. So the effect of consuming a card was to help me return to the moment before, to immerse myself in the moment when my swordsmanship reached its peak and experience the mysteries within. Gu Qingshan closed his eyes and carefully experienced the mysteries of his swordsmanship. At another location, a faraway space vortex, the Soul Shrieker stood in midair. Streams of gray air came from all directions and crashed into its body. Power! Great power! The Soul Shrieker roared. Its body was constantly writhing and growing a new pair of arms. At this point, it had 6 arms. An even more powerful aura rose from its body, turning into an endless storm that blew away all the things in the nearby void. Standing at the center of the storm, the Soul Shrieker exuded a sense of true dignity and divinity. It looked up at a certain direction in the void of space, its gaze fixated on that direction, as if it was looking at a scene from an immeasurably faraway distance. Look, a good chance, its female voice said. Indeed, the final owner of Order is currently in a meditative state. The male voice also couldn't help but excitedly speak. And I've become a bit stronger, the female voice added. While it spoke, the Soul Shrieker had already put its 6 arms together and assumed a fighting stance. It quickly chanted an incantation in a low voice towards the Queen of Thorns. Even across the void and worlds, no one can stop the divine might of chaos. Enemies shall prostrate themselves at the feet of the will of chaos. Divine power of chaos shall manifest as divine retribution. It desires to use the death of its enemies to establish the final foundation of the era of chaos. Following the Soul Shrieker's chant, a dense and surging gray fog manifested around its body. The fog converged into its 6 arms and manifested as a resounding beam of light. The Soul Shrieker abruptly raised its 6 arms and struck the gray beam of light that contained boundless power. This is the will of chaos, the power of divine retribution. Go kill him. Boom! The gray beam of light whistled through the void of space and vanished without a trace. Chapter 1062. For cultivators, Spirit Sense can help them occasionally predict their own deaths over the long years. But Spirit Sense isn't always useful. That was why when the gray light passed through countless world layers and headed straight for the Queen of Thorns, Gu Qingshan didn't notice it at all. He was in a state of complete selflessness, fully immersing himself in the beauty of that strike. His swordsmanship was improving. Fortunately, the 4 swords on his body all had sword spirits. One of them was Shanu. The gray light came too suddenly, as soon as it appeared above the airship. Yifei Li had only just managed to catch her breath. Zhang Youngho and Black Cat were talking. Boss smiled as he put down the last can of Soul Point's drink and was about to lie down. Boss was also the only one who noticed the gray light. His expression changed as he jumped up from the deck of the ship and shouted, "Gu Qing Shan!" Gu Qing Shan was in a state of complete selflessness and didn't react at all. The swords on his back naturally appeared, but there were only 3 of them, because the Heaven Sword was still asleep. Without Gu Qing Shan's control, it wouldn't move. The Chaoyin sword was the first to fly up. At the same time, Shanu suddenly appeared, wielding the Six Paths Great Mountain Sword. At this moment, Shanu had used Mystery of All Beings Equal to transform into a human girl. That's why she could wield the sword herself. Shanu was as strong as Gu Qing Shan was. But unlike Gu Qing Shan needed spirit energy and soul points to perform sword techniques, while she didn't. She could directly borrow the power of the Grand Tai Wei Mountain of Huangquan. Not only did the Grand Tai Wei Mountain protect Huangquan, but it was also the guardian mountain of the entire Samsara world, capable of withstanding the winds of chaotic tribulation. Even the 7-colored spear couldn't hurt it. Don't even think about it, she shouted as she chased after it. A loud noise came from the sky. Ki! The gray light struck the Chaoyin sword and sent it flying. The gray light didn't slow down at all, heading straight for Gu Qing Shan. Shanu wielded both swords. It met the gray light head-on. The Six Paths Great Mountain sword flashed. Slash! The gray light was instantly slashed apart. No! She clearly hit the gray light, but Shanu screamed in despair. This was a divine retribution technique that inherited the will of chaos, not a creature of chaos. It was obviously more terrifying than living creatures. Under Shanu's attack, it was only split in half and wasn't completely destroyed. 2 gray streaks of light flew past Shanu and landed behind her. In that split second, Shanu decisively activated Shadow Shift. She swapped places with Gu Qing Shan. There was only enough time for her to do this. 2 streaks of gray light had already passed the longsword. One was aimed at her front, while the other was aimed at her back. At this moment, Shanu was human, not a sword spirit. If she was hit by such a chaotic divine punishment, she would definitely die. Shanu also realized this. Don't even think about touching the young master. Her eyes were red as she thought. In the next instant, in the air, Gu Qing Shan opened her eyes. Shanu abruptly disappeared. Gu Qing Shan reappeared where she originally stood, holding the earth sword in front of her chest. Behind her, Boss was holding a book in one hand, while the other was holding a cluster of gray light. Boom! The gray light pierced through Ship Queen of Thorns and formed a giant pillar of light within the space vortex. The pillar of light slowly faded away. Gu Qing Shan and Boss reappeared. Gu Qing Shan spat up some blood and checked his soul points consumption. This holy retribution had clearly been split in half, but he still spent a total of 500,000 soul points to use Earth's Choice to barely block this attack. But because he was too close to the holy retribution, he was still wounded. Gu Qing Shan wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and asked, "How are you?" Behind him, the gray light had already disappeared. Boss remained motionless as he raised his hand to block the gray light. If I was at my peak, I wouldn't even bat an eye at such an attack," Boss said in disdain. After saying so, he collapsed. At another location, the Soul Shrieker's gaze slightly moved, pierced through countless worlds, and focused on Boss. "So, it was him. No wonder you were able to stop this holy retribution." "So they were together," the male voice angrily said. The female voice giggled. "That's fine. When I catch up to you, I'll be able to kill both of you at once." The Soul Shrieker's body moved and began to quickly fly through the space vortex. Even if it took a long detour, it was confident that it could catch up to them. This was because it could feel that its power was constantly increasing, steadily leaping toward the level of the mythological period. When Gu Qing Shan hurriedly turned around to check on Boss, she found that he was frozen on the ground, unable to move at all. "What happened to you?" "Oh no, you've already fainted. Fei, hurry up and get a drink. I'm coming." Yi Fei breathed heavily, struggled to get up from the deck of the ship, and took out a can of Soul Point's drink. At this point, Jang Young-ho also arrived with the black cat. The three of them cooperated. One helped Boss up, one pried open Boss's mouth, and the last poured the Soul Point's drink into his mouth. Boss spat out a mouthful of black blood and slowly opened his eyes. "How are you?" Gu Qing-shan asked. Boss's body was frozen, unable to move or speak. The book in his hand flew into the air. The book opened by itself to show a line of text. Frowny face. "This is the weakest type of chaos, holy retribution. But now that I've lost all of my powers, I can't completely stop it." Gu Qing-shan sighed. "Your wounds had only just gotten better, but they've worsened again." Gongzi Shano landed. Gu Qing-shan nodded and said apologetically, "I'm sorry. I made you worry." "That's fine. The most important thing is that Gongzi is fine," Shanu said, still a bit scared. Jang Young-ho looked at Boss with a terrible expression. "Another attack from countless worlds away?" he asked. "That's right, but it's even more terrifying this time," Gu Qing-shan replied. Everyone turned to Queen of Thorns. The ship had already been pierced through, so it had lost its mobility and was slowly being pushed forward by the wind of the space vortex. Queen of Thorns couldn't keep moving. Lola encouraged everyone. "Don't worry about the ship. I still have 5,891 ships with me." Yi Fei couldn't help but say, "Even if the ship is fine, this kind of attack is impossible to defend against. I think we need to think of a countermeasure. The first time was a Chaos Wraith. The second time was pure power. Who knows what kind of attack the Soul Shrieker will unleash after it becomes stronger?" Jang Young-ho replied. Gu Qing-shan also nodded. "That's right. Without any countermeasure, we won't be able to find Water God in peace." Everyone went silent. With so many worlds between them, what kind of countermeasure would there be? Most likely, the Soul Shrieker was the only entity in the entire 900 million world layers that possessed such terrifying power. At this point, Boss's book shook a bit and displayed a few lines of text. Frowny face. "I've estimated that the Soul Shrieker will need another day and a half to reach the next stage. The next attack will be even harder to defend against. Quickly think of a solution." After the lines of text were displayed, the book fell down and landed on Boss's body. "A day and a half, huh?" Gu Qing-shan turned to the black cat on Jang Young-ho's shoulder and softly asked, "How far are we from Water God?" The black cat put its paw forward. "Meow, meow, 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 meow." Jang Young-ho translated for her. "It said that the journey will be long, at least 5 more days after that." Everyone fell silent again. Even Lola couldn't say anything else to cheer them on. That kind of holy retribution is too powerful. If the other party's attack becomes even more powerful, it might even destroy the entire ship along with everyone on board. At this point, Gu Qing-shan suddenly tilted her head and asked the void of space next to her, "Is there a problem?" The few of them followed his gaze, but they didn't see anything. "What's going on? Who is Gu Qing-shan talking to?" While everyone was confused, a triumphant reply resounded from the void of space. "Shio, shio, 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 shio." Gu Qing-shan nodded. "It's impolite not to reciprocate. Let us have a taste of this holy retribution. Shio, shio." Following that, a vast power of chaos manifested from the void of space and manifested as a gray light of holy retribution. "Watch out!" Jang Young-ho shouted. "What's going on?" Yi Fei made a defensive stance. "Isn't that the attack just now?" Lola screamed. Boss silently watched the gray light with a strange look in his eyes. Ho! The gray light shot into the sky, passed through billions of worlds, and violently struck the Soul Shrieker's location. Chapter 1063. The Soul Shrieker was flying at full speed within the space vortex. Its mount, the giant abyss beast, was bombarded by the boundless sea of treasures of Queen Thorns and eventually fell into a deep slumber. And now, the Soul Shrieker had no choice but to personally travel through the space vortex. However, it didn't think much of it. In fact, as its strength continued to increase, its speed of catching up also continued to increase. The Soul Shrieker had made an estimation. In about a day's time, it would completely catch up to him. It was very confident about this. Now, there's even better news. Although the divine punishment he had just unleashed was neutralized by the other party, it wasn't completely useless. The enemy's ship had been destroyed. The soul shrieker smirked. Since both sides had lost their mounts, its movement speed was naturally faster than Guqin Shan and the others. "Wait for me. I'll catch you soon," it muttered in a low voice. At this time, the divine punishment came. The gray light passed through countless worlds, heading straight towards where Guqin Shan and the others were. Sensing the approaching power, the soul shrieker's expression changed. "Not good. What's going on?" Its female voice screamed. The gray light came very quickly. The soul shrieker wasn't on guard, so it only had time to spread its 6 arms in front of itself. Boom! The enormous power of divine retribution smashed into his body. The soul shrieker left an afterimage where it stood. Its true body was sent flying backwards like a bolt of lightning. It crashed into a world and was blasted into the depths of the ocean by the power of the divine punishment, creating a deep crater with a diameter of about 200 kilometers at the bottom of the ocean. This world could not withstand the impact of this mythical power. From the bottom of the sea to the land, a huge earthquake began to spread across the entire world. Within the ocean where the soul shrieker crashed into, seawater shot up to several 10,000 meters into the sky. The resulting tsunami quickly engulfed the land and washed away all the wild beasts living on it. This kind of power even caused all the volcanoes to erupt violently. The entire atmosphere was covered by gray fog, and no light could be seen. The originally complete continent was torn apart, like a huge ship floating in the ocean, separated from each other. The storm swept across. Heavenly fire fell from the sky. The temperature dropped sharply. The wild beasts that were originally in a dominant position were gradually heading towards the end of history. In the depths of the ocean, the soul shrieker slowly climbed out of the crater. It flew to the surface of the sea, panting heavily. His injuries, the soul shrieker checked its body and found that one of its arms was missing, leaving only a stump. "That's impossible," it roared. "It's clearly my divine punishment. How could they use it to attack me?" Rumble. All living things in the world were extinct, and only the aftermath of the earthquake responded to it. The soul shrieker slowly calmed down. Although he didn't know how the other party did it or what kind of ability they used, it was clear that this kind of long-range attack couldn't be used again. The soul shrieker pondered for a while, then abruptly chanted an incantation. "Citizens of the era of chaos, I summon you here. Chaos needs your help to punish its enemies. Carriers of chaos that fulfill the following conditions may respond to my summon. You shall be bestowed with the power of chaos." The fog continued to spread from its body, completely shrouding the surrounding sea. After a while, one figure after another appeared. "Is this the summoning of the envoy of chaos? I'm really looking forward to it. What use would someone like me be?" This old man also found it strange, but since it is a request from chaos and a gift of power, this old man is naturally willing to contribute his power to chaos. That's right, but even someone like me who only knows how to wander the void was honored to be invited here. How exciting! The soul shrieker stood still and spoke to its surroundings. Deceitful fools are not allowed to travel with this envoy. "Come, let me see what you can do." Hearing that, the figure slowly walked towards it. An old man was the first to show himself. He clasped his hands together and shouted, "Summon a spaceship." Following his voice, a black sailboat slowly manifested in the sky above him. The old man bowed to the soul shrieker and spoke. "Your Excellency, this old man is the chairman of the 900 Million World Layers Spaceship Association. This ship is the fastest in the 900 million world layers, meticulously crafted for my entire life's worth of shipbuilding knowledge." The soul shrieker nodded and replied, "Very well. You may remain." The old man happily replied, "Thank you, Your Excellency." At this point, another middle-aged man came forward. "Your Excellency," he bowed and spoke. "I am the interstellar bandit who is the best at piloting spaceships, the master of the 89 worlds, the captain of the Red Dragon Bandit Group. What can you do?" The Soul Shrieker asked. I can pilot a spaceship. My ability is to increase the speed of a spaceship, roughly 3 times faster, the man replied. Very well. You may remain, the Soul Shrieker replied. Another person came forward and said, Your Excellency, I can manipulate elemental wind to increase the speed of a spaceship. Another person behind him spoke up, Your Excellency, I can make a spaceship perform a short warp jump. The others also spoke up and introduced their abilities to the Soul Shrieker. A dozen minutes later, the fastest spaceship in the 900 million world layers carried the Soul Shrieker and a group of combatants through the sky, leaving this world and heading towards Gu Qingshan's group. At another location, Gu Qingshan was telling everyone about the Jade Gourd Pendant. Zhang Yongho and Yi Fei Li's expressions suddenly changed. What's the matter? Gu Qingshan immediately asked. Zhang Yongho and Yi Fei Li both looked at the void of space and appeared to be listening. A few moments later, Zhang Yongho explained. The Soul Shrieker is calling out to every carrier of chaos, in search of an expert that can allow it to quickly move through the void of space. Yi Fei Li replied. It said that as long as you have the appropriate abilities, you can answer its call and receive a generous reward. Everyone exchanged glances. Who would have thought that the two of them would be able to learn about the Soul Shrieker's whereabouts after becoming carriers of chaos? Gu Qingshan commented, It seems it doesn't dare to attack from a super long distance and is instead trying to catch up to us. Zhang Yongho was a bit tempted. I do have a few tricks up my sleeve to increase the speed of flight. How about I answer its call and find a chance to completely destroy its spaceship? Gu Qingshan was shocked and hurriedly stopped him. Please don't. That guy is already almost invincible. If you're discovered, you won't even have a chance to run away. A line of text also appeared on Boss's book, Frowny Face. That guy eats souls to survive. There's no chance of survival once it's discovered. Zhang Yongho had no choice but to give up. Gu Qingshan said, Lola, find the fastest ship you can. We need to do everything we can to avoid its pursuit. Lola nodded and began to search through her backpack. Gu Qingshan continued, From now on, everyone stay alert and use whatever abilities you have that can increase the speed of the ship. Zhang Yongho replied. Leave it to me. Yi Fei Li pondered. I also know a bit. Gu Qingshan said. I also know a bit. Let's take turns. They all turned to Boss. The fact that Boss was able to receive deific retribution with his bare hands proved that he was terrifyingly strong. Does he have a way to increase the speed of flight? Everyone had the same thought at the same time. Boss appeared a bit awkward. His book flew up and slowly manifested a line of text. Frowny Face, I'll leave this small matter to you. Chapter 1064. Lola took out a pair of bronze binoculars from her backpack and muttered, Binoculars? Let me see who's chasing us. She raised the binoculars and randomly looked in a certain direction. Yi Fei Li doubtfully asked, Your Majesty, the direction you're looking at. Shoo. Lola gestured for him to calm down. She looked through the binoculars for a bit, then quickly explained, The one controlling the ship is the chairman of the 900 million world layers Spaceship Association. His ship is publicly acknowledged to be the fastest. There are a few dozen navigators on board. They've already begun to use their abilities to speed up the ship. If we continue to travel at a normal speed, it'll only take half a day for them to catch up. Saying so, Lola put the binoculars away and looked up at Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan nodded. I understand. Don't we have a fast ship? Lola explained. Because I'm the queen, all of my ships are very good-looking and safe. Unfortunately, in front of that monster, these safety measures don't seem to exist at all. Because of safety, the Queen of Thorns' ship isn't actually very fast. Gu Qingshan smiled. Lola smirked and put her hand into her backpack. The royal family naturally prioritizes safety as a top priority when buying a ship, but I bought it myself. She took out a piece of spatial sealing paper and tossed it to the sky. The sealing paper burst open. A sleek red bullet-shaped ship appeared in front of them. Zhang Yongho whistled. The ship looked extremely beautiful. Lola explained, It doesn't have any defensive facilities, only speed. The cooperation of the previous 5 chairmen of the 900 million world layers Spaceship Association took 1 year to complete. Zhang Yongho asked, How's its speed? Lola shrugged. It's twice as fast as their ship. I occasionally race against people my age, and I always win. If that's the case, it won't be safe every time you use it in a competition, Gu Qingshan said in a low voice. Lola replied matter-of-factly. At the time, there were no monsters like the Soul Shrieker in the 900 million world layers, and I could summon the Great Bramble Tree whenever I wanted, so there was nothing that could threaten me. Do you like spaceships? Jang Young-ho asked. Yeah. Whether it's a collection or a competition, it's a great way to reduce stress. Speaking of flying competitions, Lola happily counted her fingers and said, when a spaceship was built, I knew about it. I immediately gathered many skilled spaceship builders to build a spaceship for me. I'm the Queen of Thorns. I won't let anyone beat me in a flying competition. I have a total of 5 spaceships that are faster than theirs. The price of each one is enough to buy a few worlds. Lola's expression was very natural, and her tones sounded like she was talking about her favorite toy. It was impossible to tell what she was showing off. For her, it was just a hobby, a way for her to pass the time. There was no need to show off or compare, because no one had ever been able to compare to her in this aspect. Gu Qingshan said, all right, the only thing we need to worry about now is that they have too many people who can increase the speed of their spaceship. That's the only threat. Yi Feili patted her chest. Don't worry, just leave that to us. Let's not waste any time and get going, Jang Young-ho also said. At this point, Boss had already recovered a bit and could barely walk. The 4 of them boarded the ship. The interior of the ship wasn't very spacious, only about a few dozen square meters of space for everyone to move around, much less than the Queen of Thorns. It was easy to see that for the sake of speed, this ship had given up on many of its functions. Lola sat in the pilot's seat, skillfully piloting the ship. The airship let out a loud, rumbling noise as it took off from the damaged Empress and quickly disappeared into the space vortex, slowly going away. Time slowly passed. Lola once again took out the pair of bronze binoculars to look behind them and said, there are 2 true experts among them. Each time it's their turn to pilot the ship, they'll be able to close the gap between us and them. Jang Young-ho was the first to speak. Then we should also make our move. He reached his hand out and began to draw a card from the void of space. Very quickly, 5 cards were drawn in his hand. Let me see. I got it. He drew a card and placed it on the floor. It was a card with dark runes on it, and a pair of wings was drawn on it. Yi Feili curiously asked, are you going to use this card to increase the ship speed? Jang Young-ho replied, this is the Hitman Dex Wings of the Net. It can increase the speed of any vehicle. He placed his hand on the card and infused it with power. The card disappeared from the floor. The ship began to speed up. Lola controlled the ship and glanced at the speedometer. Increased speed by 50%, how impressive. She excitedly praised. But it doesn't last for too long. This card's effect can only last for about 10 minutes, after which you'll need to rest, Jang Young-ho commented. 10 minutes? That's not bad. It'll help us put some distance between us, Lola commented. Yi Feili crossed her arms. That's not bad at all. I thought I would be the one who would be able to help. Gu Qingshan smiled. Cards often contain miraculous combinations of certain laws. Feili, you'll see a lot of strange things in the 900 million world layers. Don't use your old way of looking at things. I understand, Yi Feili nodded. 10 minutes quickly passed. The ship slowly returned to its original speed. Yi Feili said, now it's my turn. He drew the forgetting river soul, flaying hook, and muttered, followers, I need your power. The hook began to glow in a faint yellow light. This light slowly detached from the hook and manifested into a semi-transparent form. These are ghosts. Gu Qingshan was surprised. Yes, they're all people who just died not too long ago. Borrowing my power to help them achieve the wish they had when they were still alive, but they weren't willing to forget everything and reincarnate, instead choosing to follow me, Yi Feili replied. The silhouettes of the ghosts slowly became clear. They all bowed to Yi Feili. Because these ghosts are very unique, they more or less have unique abilities, so I'm willing to bring them along as a bit of help, Yi Feili explained. Yi Feili reached his hand out and pointed at one of the souls. Jim, I remember your ability is weight of all things. You'll be responsible for lowering the ship's weight a bit. Everyone else, get out of the ship and think of a way to speed it up. As soon as Yi Fei Li said so, the ghosts scattered and began to follow Yi Fei Li's orders. The ship began to speed up again. Lola stared closely at the speedometer and said, "The speed has increased by 20%. Count, how long can this ability of yours last?" Yi Fei Li replied, "Half an hour. That's right, although it won't be as fast as Zhang Yongho. Half an hour is more than enough time to ensure that the distance between us and the Soul Shrieker won't decrease at this point." Boss's book began to hover and draw everyone's attention. As the book flipped open, lines of text appeared on its frowny face. Gu Qing Shan. "You must remember something. The distance between us and the Soul Shrieker will determine how much time you have to find that card after you reach your destination. We need to speed up as much as possible to leave the Soul Shrieker far behind and give you enough time to search for the card." After reading through the text, Gu Qing Shan nodded. "I was thinking the same thing, so I'll be speeding up the ship from now on." Saying so, he walked to the ship's entrance, opened the hatch, and went out. The hatch was closed. Zhang Yongho and Yi Fei Li exchanged glances. "What's he going to do?" Zhang Yongho asked. "How would I know?" Yi Fei Li replied. Lola turned on the ship's surveillance device, stared closely at it, and chimed in, "When Big Brother Qing Shan does something, it's usually only at the very end that others will know what's going on." Zhang Yongho and Yi Fei Li both nodded in agreement. Outside the ship, Gu Qing Shan released his inner sight to observe his surroundings. He found two places that he could hold on to, put his hands on them, and held on tight. The ship was moving very quickly, so he had to use spirit energy to protect himself from the intense winds of the void. Gu Qing Shan crouched there, glanced at the war god UI, and displayed the description of a certain skill: frowny face shadow shift, divine skill, instant cast skill. You can swap places with any being within the range of your divine sense. Description: this skill is a law-grade divine skill. No living being is able to resist it. No formations, barriers, or even forbidden techniques would be able to stop it. Reading this description, Gu Qing Shan carefully recalled his past battles. During the Battle of Shenwu, I once used Shadow Shift to bring Qing Ro and Wan Air to switch places with Qi Yan. In other words, this divine skill isn't limited to me alone. As long as I have something with me, I can move with them. Then, Gu Qing Shan fully released his inner sight. With his Paragon Realm cultivation, his inner sight's range was almost 10,000 kilometers. "Got it," Gu Qing Shan muttered. 9,000 kilometers in front of the ship, a piece of wreckage was silently floating in the void of space, occasionally moving along with the wind of the void. Gu Qing Shan's inner sight wrapped around it and abruptly activated Shadow Shift. Sha! A piece of wreckage appeared where he originally stood. 9,000 kilometers away, Gu Qing Shan suddenly appeared with the ship. Chapter 1065. 9,000 kilometers. A single shadow shift took him 9,000 kilometers. Admittedly, such a distance was nothing in the vast and boundless space turbulence. But Gu Qing Shan was no longer the Rejuvenation Realm cultivator. He was back in Shenwu world. He was now a Paragon Realm cultivator. In the age of old, he was an existence that could stand shoulder to shoulder with the divinities. Shadow Shift didn't cost much to him at all. Within the space vortex, the ship continued to fly forward. Inside the boundless blue sea of elemental energy, he brought the ship forward. On the beautiful purple rippling silk belt, both he and the ship disappeared at the same time, reappearing at the other end of the space vortex. The void was immeasurably deep, unable to be measured with common sense. Even a single piece of rock that stood still in the void might contain 7 to 8 worlds. But some existences as large as a nebula might not even have any signs of life at all. A single leaf is a world. A single universe is also a world. The concepts of small and big couldn't be compared at all within the void. Many worlds gave off waves of energy that interacted with each other in the void, twisting, gathering, exploding, scattering, and wreaking havoc. This was the wind of the void. Gu Qing Shan released his inner sight to search for the next item in the void that he could switch places with. There were simply too many random things in the void of space. This wasn't hard. The only thing Gu Qingshan needed to do was to pick the one that was the furthest away from him and confirm that it was really an item and not a world. With his current power, he still couldn't switch places with a world. He found a broken box, wrapped his inner sight around it to confirm that it wasn't a world, then used Shadow Shift. And so on. Shadow Shift. Shadow Shift. Shadow Shift. The flying ship flashed through the void, constantly moving forward. Inside the ship, Zhang Yongho looked at the surveillance for a while, then turned around to take out a military bed and put on the ground. He then took out a blanket, took off his shoes, took off his coat, then hugged the black cat and crawled into the blanket. "I'm so tired. Wake me up when he's done," Zhang Yongho yawned and said. "Hey, you don't have to do this," Yi Feili said. Zhang Yongho replied. With such an ability, the Soul Shrieker wouldn't be able to catch up even after a year. Meow. The black cat agreed. The man and the cat covered their heads in the quilt and began to sleep. Yi Feili frowned and said, "But aren't you being too relaxed? Who knows what will happen in front of us? It's better to maintain an appropriate amount of vigilance." As she spoke, Yi Feili picked up the game console, turned it on, loaded the file, and entered the battle. Lola sighed. "My count, your expression and what you are doing are somewhat incongruous." She turned to look at the surveillance camera to observe Gu Qingshan's every move, occasionally taking out the bronze binoculars to check the Soul Shrieker's distance. "All right, looks like we're getting further and further away," Lola said in a low voice. All of a sudden, the cabin door opened and Gu Qingshan came in. Lola was a bit surprised and hurriedly asked, "Why did you come back?" Gu Qingshan replied with then replied, "I just remembered that I have something to take care of." As Lola looked at the surveillance camera, she saw that Shanu was now in it. Just like Gu Qingshan did before, Shanu was using Shadow Shift to bring the ship along with her. "That sword of yours, it really is enviable," Lola said in admiration. "I think so too," Gu Qingshan smiled. "What exactly do you have to take care of?" "I just remembered that I need to make some preparations. I'm guessing that the map of the 900 million world layers you have is the most complete." "I guess so. There's basically no one who has a more complete and detailed map than I do." Saying so, Lola took out a silver piece of metal. She pointed at the piece of metal. Immediately, a map was projected in the air. Lola pointed at a moving dot and said, "This is the map of the 300 world layers around us. This is our ship. Because we're currently in the middle of 94,000 elemental worlds, the elemental tide has filled up the entire void, so our movement speed is very slow. It's fortunate that you still have Shadow Shift. After going through these worlds, there are still 599 cursed worlds, all of which were destroyed due to careless use of forbidden magic. The space in that area is very sluggish, but my ship has a special protective layer, and with your abilities, it shouldn't be an issue for us to quickly pass through it." Gu Qingshan looked at the map and seriously listened. Wait a moment. He walked over, crouched down in front of Zhang Yongho's military bunk, and called out, "Wake up! Inghao, what is it?" Zhang Yongho asked. "Meow." The black cat also peeked his head out. "There's something important," Gu Qingshan solemnly told him. "Me or black cat?" Zhang Yongho asked. "Fine, black cat. But you need to be the translator," Gu Qingshan replied. The black cat called out, "Meow, meow, 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 meow." Gu Qingshan asked, "What does it want to say?" "It said it wants to eat after it's done." "No problem." The group walked up to the map. "Black cat, please tell me where our destination is." Gu Qingshan looked at the map and asked. Lola was surprised. "So you want to know which world we're heading to so that you can prepare ahead of time?" "That's right." Gu Qingshan looked at the black cat. The black cat looked at the map and called out, "Meow, meow, meow." It said to enlarge the area of the map a bit. Zhang Yongho translated for her. Lola tapped the silver piece of metal. The map enlarged, showing more worlds and voids on it. "Meow, meow." It said it's not big enough. Lola continued enlarging it. "Meow, meow, meow." It says it has to be enlarged again. "Got it." The map finally met Black Cat's requirements. The black cat looked at the map for a bit, then put its paw on a certain spot. Everyone looked at that spot. It was a dark void. "That can't be right. Why isn't there anything there?" Lola doubtfully asked. Jang Young-ho smiled and replied, "Perhaps it's a hidden world. Such worlds are only open to underground professions. They wouldn't randomly give out their own maps." Lola believed him and asked, "Then what do we do?" Jang Young-ho replied, "Don't worry. I have maps and beacon for most of the underground worlds." He took out a black piece of metal and lightly tapped it. Sha! A screen of light appeared. This map almost overlapped with Lola's, with only minor differences. Everyone carefully looked at it, only to find that the spot Black Cat pointed at was still completely empty. Strange. Why isn't my underground world map there either? Jang Young-ho felt a bit embarrassed. Gu Qing-shan pondered. There's intense wind in the void. If a card is hovering there, it wouldn't be able to stay still. In other words, there might be something in that place, but there's nothing there, Jang Young-ho said. Everyone was at a loss. Yi Fei Li sighed. If it's not even marked on the map, we might not be able to find out about the situation there in advance. Gu Qing-shan's eyes twitched a bit, exchanged glances with Jang Young-ho, then said, "No, we still have Boss with us. He's strong and knowledgeable. Perhaps he knows something." Jang Young-ho understood and scoffed. Him? He can't even accelerate the ship. Let's not ask him about the map. The effect was immediate. Boss's book flew back with a ho, waving in front of everyone. The book opened to show a few lines of text. Frowny face, "It's just a hidden place. I really don't know why you're so troubled. I've already used up all my strength. I only need to borrow a bit of origin power from my soul to show it." Gu Qing-shan immediately replied, "No problem." A few people stepped forward and hurriedly helped their boss to the map. Boss struggled to raise his hand, placed it on the book, then began to chant an incantation. After he finished, Boss turned to Gu Qing-shan and nodded. Gu Qing-shan placed her hand on his back and slowly infused it with soul points. Being infused with soul points, the book in Boss's hand abruptly flew up, crashed into the map in the air, and absorbed all the images inside. A few moments later, the book opened up in the air. Lines of text appeared on it. Frowny face discovered a hidden place that no one can reach. The land of vows and secret protection. The birthplace of the old deity's descendant. A unique sealed world. Calming soul country. This world is eternally hidden and guarded. Without the correct method, you will never be able to enter. As soon as the text appeared on the book, a few more lines quickly appeared. Oh no! What the hell? I was too careless. Why would it be this place? Hurry, give me a few cans of Soul Points drinks, right now. Sensing the urgency between the lines, the few of them were astonished. Boss had always been calm and collected. Even if he was about to faint at any moment, his expression was still prideful and calm. Why did he suddenly become so angry? At this time, holy white light gathered from all directions and landed in the center of the spaceship, turning into a dignified middle-aged man. His eyes were sharp like an eagle's as he stared straight at Boss. Exiled Apostle, I've always believed that although you've fallen, you're still a very responsible person when it comes to your vow and keeping secrets, the middle-aged man who was referred to as the general said. His tone carried an inexplicable sense of coldness. His entire being exuded killing intent, as if he was about to attack at any moment. I've always been responsible, Boss replied with a calm expression. The general looked around and coldly scoffed. Revealing calming soul country to these mortals, is that what you call being responsible? A gloomy aura suddenly erupted from Boss's body and engulfed the entire spaceship. Everyone moved a bit, apparently a bit uneasy. Gu Qing-shan heard someone muttering in a low voice. The presence of the abyss, damn it. Boss stared straight at the general and spoke with a frigid tone. Watch your language, General. He raised his hand. A mass of gray fog manifested into the shape of a skull from thin air and was grasped in his hand. Boss raised the skull with both hands, glanced at it, and casually said, You should understand, with your identity alone, you don't have the qualifications to question me. Or perhaps, you want to taste the power of the abyss? The general's gaze became sharp. The bones in his entire body gave off a series of cracking noises, as if he was trying to suppress some sort of indescribable rage. Greatest above the star crown, I also know that your identity is noble, the general abruptly shouted in anger. But according to the ancient covenant, after you've exiled yourself, you should have protected Calming Soul Country, but you've never once appeared. Not even once. Boss coldly scoffed. There are too many places that I need to protect. Do I have to wander outside your gates every day to be considered protecting? Do you think I'm some kind of watchdog? The general didn't dare to answer him and simply turned his head away. The Council of Elders is gathered. They have all learned of your violation of the ancient covenant today. Boss's gaze turned away and spoke to the void of space. Elders of Calming Soul Country, I know that you are watching this place, so I have to explain the situation clearly. Although you have relied on an extremely ancient power to be protected, at the same time, this has also caused your information to be completely sealed off. The era of chaos has fully descended. The parallel world apocalypse has taken over the abyss and is expanding endlessly into the space vortex. As the protector of Calming Soul Country, I have come here today to report this. The void of space remains silent. A few moments later, an old voice resounded. Your report is necessary. After all, this is your duty, but why did you violate the oath and reveal the name of Calming Soul Country? Another dry, hoarse voice continued. You should know that once the name is revealed, a certain entity within the endless void would discover this place. This is your dereliction of duty, Boss immediately replied. No. It was to keep my promise that I revealed the name of Calming Soul Country to a limited number of people. Another old female voice sounded and asked doubtfully, What's going on? Keep your promise? Please explain in detail. Boss turned to Gu Qing Shan's group, clenched his teeth, and decided to go all out. According to the oath of the past, I must protect the secret of Calming Soul Country, protect the demis of Calming Soul Country, and search for a way to strengthen Calming Soul Country. Do you acknowledge this? We do. Please tell us why you violated this oath, Boss replied. I did not violate my oath. I came here this time to first report the news of the outside world, and second, to fulfill the oath of the past, to search for a few unique talents, and send them to Calming Soul Country to strengthen its forces. All was quiet. The general was the first to chuckle. With just these few people, he released his divine pressure, sweeping through Gu Qing Shan, Zhang Young-ho, Yi Fei Li, and Lola. Gu Qing Shan took a step back. Both Zhang Young-ho and Yi Fei Li couldn't endure it and were forced to kneel on one knee by the seemingly solid power, unable to move at all. Lola was already propping herself up with both hands, soaked in cold sweat. She was so uncomfortable that she wanted to cry. All of a sudden, a voice called out, Be a bit more polite to a girl. Gu Qing Shan walked forward and stood in front of Lola. Receiving his protection, Lola felt much better. The general smirked mockingly and said, Oh, a mere ant dares to. Gu Qing Shan cut him off and casually declared, Don't think that you can bully a child just because you're strong. If you say another word, I'll have you die right here. The general froze, then opened his eyes wide in anger. No one has ever dared to threaten me in front of so many people. This person is going to die. He smirked and was about to draw his weapon, but was stopped by a shout. Stop! The general froze. Then his anger completely dissipated. He bowed to the void of space and respectfully spoke. Elders, this mortal has disrespected me. According to the law, mortals cannot disrespect a deity. He must die. The sound of discussion resounded from the void of space. Obviously, Gu Qing Shan's sudden attack had drawn the attention of those people who were called elders. They seemed to be discussing something. Gu Qing Shan ignored them and went to help Zhang Young-ho and Yi Fei Li up. Pitiful worm. Do you really think you'll be able to protect them if I do anything? The general said with a grim expression. Gu Qing Shan stood in front of the three of them, looked at the general, and spoke without changing her expression. You'll die if you do anything. Trust me, I won't lie about something like this. Looking at him, the general couldn't help but feel doubtful. This person's strength is very average, but he dares to say such a thing when the situation is completely under his control. This person is either a lunatic or he truly has something to rely on. The general seemed to have thought of something and went silent. In a void of space, the elders were still discussing. Boss glanced at Gu Shan and also appeared doubtful. He also didn't know what was going on. A few moments later, only then did a voice ring out from the group of elders. Greatest above the star crown, you've brought a person with a secret identity. We've just been searching for the source of his secret and discovered a few familiar presences, another voice replied. Indeed, we have the ability to continue searching and uncover his true identity. But we stopped because we sensed that his identity was being kept a secret by a certain unspeakable entity in the void. We could not disturb that esteemed entity, another voice followed up. Perhaps it's one of the four pillar gods, perhaps it's another ruler of the void. Either way, there are no issues with you bringing this person with such a noble identity to calming soul country. We acknowledge this, but why did you bring a few mortals with you? I hope you can explain the reason. Boss calmed down. He glanced at Gu Shan. This brat actually has someone protecting his secret. If I knew this earlier, I wouldn't have had to lower myself and explain myself so much. However, the other still needed his help. Boss cleared his throat and loudly declared, "Let me clarify. I'm not a human trafficker. I'm simply fulfilling the oath of protection." He walked next to Jang Young-ho, patted Jang Young-ho's shoulder, and explained to the void, "This person found calming soul country and ignored all of your defensive measures, really?" An old voice asked. Boss gestured for Jang Young-ho to raise the cat. "Do you see that? An extremely rare life-type mystic-type seeker. I'm guessing that he's extremely valuable in calming soul country." No one said anything. This seemed to be a tacit agreement. Boss walked up to Yi Fei Li and pointed at him. "This person was able to materialize ghosts, as well as heal the wounds on my body. A true healer. I believe that's more than enough to explain the situation." The void fell silent. Finally, Boss turned to Lola. "This little girl, don't underestimate her. Queen Thorns was able to grab treasures from the void of space. Regardless of what world she was in, this ability would always be the best, the most eye-catching, and the most useful. Not to mention, this was a place like calming soul country." Boss felt a bit prideful. As he was about to introduce her, Gu Shan walked over. "No need to introduce Lola, otherwise she'll definitely be the center of attention." Gu Shan silently sent her voice. Boss was surprised. "Just as I'm about to show off, you're telling me not to?" But then again, these demis are still quite powerful. Now that I've lost all of my strength, Gu Shan and the others haven't matured yet. If these demis knew that Lola had the ability to collect treasures, none of them would be able to protect her. While Boss was thinking that, Gu Shan had already taken Lola's hand and told the void of space. Just as the apostle said, "No one can underestimate her, because she's my younger sister and has always been with me." After saying so, Gu Shan picked up Lola and lightly placed her on her left shoulder. Lola froze. What a familiar sight. Just like how they fought side by side in Tree's collection world. He knows that I like to sit on his left shoulder, because I told him before that when my father was still alive, I also used to sit on his shoulder like this. As for why he interrupted Boss's introduction, he only needed to think a bit to understand. Sure enough, the void of space stopped for a bit. An old voice resounded again. "Him, these people are indeed suitable to live in calming soul country. They can also contribute to calming soul country if that's the case." You may come. As these words fell, the armored men put away their weapons, and the general could only respond with a yes. Boss scoffed and asked the void of space, "I came all the way here, only to be treated as a traitor." This was a bit harsh. If he hadn't violated his oath and was still delivering information to calming soul country, they couldn't treat him like this. In the end, he was still the king of the abyss. The old female voice from before instantly became gentle. "We have wronged you, one and only apostle. Please come and rest for a bit. We wish to properly apologize." Boss thought for a bit before nodding reservedly. Jang Young-ho and Yi Fei Li exchanged glances. "Seems like I passed." The two of them had the same thought. Lola sat on Gu Shan's left shoulder with her head lowered so that no one could see her expression. Chapter 1067. Inside the ship. The whispers in the void of space had died down. The fully armored soldiers with powerful soul points slowly retreated into the shadows before disappearing from the ship. The general was the last to leave. He stared at Boss and spoke without changing his expression. Continue to fly towards 163 worlds. We will open a barrier there to receive your ship ahead of time. This is to prevent anyone from discovering our true coordinates. I hope you can understand very well. I've troubled you. In truth, if your attitude had been this good from the start, I would have given you a few small gifts. Unfortunately, you messed things up. Boss pretended to be regretful. The general opened his mouth to say something, but stopped himself. He turned around, took a few steps forward, and disappeared from the ship. The surroundings became silent. See, ho! Boss took a deep breath, then exhaled. He sat down on the ground and shouted, "Drink! Give me a drink!" Yi Fei opened a can of Soul Points drink and gave it to him. Boss drank it all in one gulp, slowly moved on the ground, and finally sat leaning against the wall. "Listen, we don't have much time. Before we enter that place, I need to tell you something." Boss's speech became faster and faster. "That place is made up of mortals, demis, elders, and true gods. The ones who rule are the few true gods, but they rarely show up. So the ones who truly control the situation are the elders below the elders. Every demi will have at least one divine skill from the day they are born. This is the demi's natural talent, which determines the difference between them and mortals. That's why you shouldn't act too arrogantly when you get there. Otherwise, I won't have the power to save you right now." Boss glanced at Gu Shan and said, "Especially you, Gu Qing." Shan smiled and asked, "Are there really divinities?" Boss replied, "There weren't any in the past. The divinities only returned in the last few 10,000 years." Yi Fei was intrigued by the idea of demis and sighed. To be able to grasp a divine skill at birth. This is truly unbelievable. So the majority of those in that place are demis? Boss shook his head. No, most of them are humans and some rare creatures. God's descendants make up 30% of them, but they're the strongest. Zhang Youngho had a question that had been bothering him for a long time. So he asked, "What kind of god are they?" Boss said, "Do you know the 7 gods? Are they the 7 demon gods of the strife zones?" "Yes, they're their descendants." "Where did the 7 demon gods come from? Alive or dead?" "These 2 questions of yours are really good," Boss praised, then explained, "I don't know if those 7 gods are alive or dead, but they all escaped when the inner plane was destroyed." Gu Shan asked, "What about the 4 righteous gods? Did they also escape from the inner plane?" No. The reason why they are called righteous gods is because the 4 gods of earth, water, fire, and wind control this space vortex. They're the original gods of the void. Gu Shan went silent. "I didn't think the space vortex would be so complicated. The 7 demon gods came from the inner plane. The bygone era, humans came from a parallel world and escaped to this place. Only the 4 righteous gods originally belonged to this space vortex. They were the masters of the void." Lola suddenly said, "Our ship is being guided by some sort of force. The space around us has also begun to change. We're probably about to enter warp mode." Boss cautiously warned everyone. "Remember what I said just now? That place is extremely powerful. It's not a place you can act rashly. Once you get there, you must be very careful with your words and actions. Otherwise, you might be killed at any moment." Everyone responded in unison. As soon as he said that, a hole suddenly appeared in the void of space in front of the ship. A powerful suction force came from the hole and enveloped the ship, causing it to disappear from the void of space without a trace. To Gu Shan's group, they could sense that the ship had slowed down and was slowly moving forward in a blue sky. "Look," Lola pointed at the surveillance screen outside the ship. Everyone looked at the screen. Outside, there was a boundless blue sky, and an exceptionally bright white star was surrounded by a sky full of stars. This star gave off a warm and holy light that illuminated the entire world. Below the sky was a city built entirely of ivory white rocks. This city was so huge that it stretched as far as their eyes could see. Layers upon layers of glowing runes descended from the sky, covering every corner of the city and enveloping it. "We're here. This great city cut off from the rest of the world is Calming Soul Country." Boss sighed. Gu Shan stared closely at the screen, then pointed at a certain spot. Boss, what's with those statues? Boss looked back, only to see Gu Shan pointing at the center of the city. There were 4 statues there, each carved out of white rock to represent 4 different items: a golden coin, a cyan key, a crimson pendant, a black book. Boss smiled and explained, "These are the symbols of the 4 pillar gods, representing that they each protect the 4 regions of Calming Soul Country." Is that so? Are they really protecting this place? Gu Shan asked. Indeed, for the past several 10,000 years, the 4 pillar gods have always ruled over Calming Soul Country, Boss replied. Gu Shan went silent for a while. Finally, he muttered in a low voice, "Is that so? Why didn't I know about this?" The space vortex. When Gu Shan's group was sucked into Calming Soul Country and vanished from the 900 million world layers, the Soul Shrieker immediately noticed. It abruptly rushed to the front of the ship and looked up at the void of space. They really disappeared. The Soul Shrieker was stunned. Why did they suddenly disappear? That's impossible, it muttered in a low voice. Noticing that something wasn't right, the captain of the ship came up and asked, "Your Grace Envoy, what happened? Did the ship's route change?" "No. Continue forward. I want to see for myself," the Soul Shrieker ordered. "Understood," the captain replied. The ship continued to quickly travel through the void of space. Time slowly passed. Half a day later, the ship arrived at the place where Gu Shan's group disappeared. The Soul Shrieker circled around the ship but couldn't find anything. It then ordered everyone on the ship to search the void of space. A while later, still nothing. The Soul Shrieker didn't give up and chanted an incantation to summon the carriers of chaos. It summoned all the carriers of chaos, who were experts in searching for traces, filling the entire ship. Everyone was sent out to search for traces of Gu Shan's group. One day passed. It was as if the Demon King order and its carrier had evaporated into thin air. No matter what the Soul Shrieker did, it couldn't find the whereabouts of the Demon King order. The search continued until the 5th day. The Soul Shrieker finally changed its strategy. It activated a spell and declared to the countless worlds in the void of space, "All carriers of chaos. From this moment onwards, all of you must seize the time to advance because, very soon, I will become your deity and lead you to conquer every world." All the carriers of chaos on the ship scattered. They were unsummoned by the Soul Shrieker and returned to where they originally came from. The only person left on the ship was the Soul Shrieker. It sat down on the deck of the ship and silently stared at the void of space. Gu Shan, I assume that you've entered a certain hidden location, I must say. You are indeed very smart, but do you really think you can avoid me forever? The Soul Shrieker displayed a cruel smile. I am slowly ascending to the position of deity of chaos, while you and your order cannot hide in those hidden locations forever. I will stay here and slowly wait for you to come out. When you appear, everything will come to an end. Please remember this book's domain name. Mobile version. Chapter 1068. Boss, have you met the 4 pillar gods before? I haven't. I don't like dealing with divinities seemingly feeling embarrassed. Boss continued. 10,000 years ago, when I found out that the 4 pillar gods had arrived at Calming Soul Country, I no longer cared about this place. After all, I have too many places to protect, like the bottom of the abyss, the Starlight Empire, the Isle of Air, etc. I'm too busy. Gu Shan nodded in understanding, but didn't ask Boss about his identity. The airship slowly landed in front of a towering palace that reached the clouds. This was the most central area of Calming Soul Country, the center of the entire city. The airship was put away by Lola. The 4 of them stood at the entrance of the palace. Several squads of guards were already waiting here. 2 women wearing luxurious robes came forward and bowed to Boss. Esteemed Lord of Infinite Origins, please bring your people and come with us to meet the Pillar Water God, Water God. Gu Shan's heart skipped a beat, but she also felt that something wasn't right. If she really was Water God, she would definitely recognize me. Most likely, as soon as the airship appeared, she would come looking for me. Then, could this be the real Water God? Boss was a bit surprised and asked, "What is it? The divinities want to meet us in person." Indeed, one of the women smiled and replied, "After all, since the age of old, no outsider has ever entered our world. Today is the first time, so the divinities are paying attention." Boss nodded. This was within reason. As he was about to step forward, Guqing Shan sent her voice to him through inner sight. Boss stopped and smiled. "I wonder if the other 3 pillar gods will come as well." The 2 women bowed again and lowered their heads. Besides Water God, the other 3 divinities have yet to announce their decision, so we don't dare to speculate about the divinities. Seeing their fearful expressions, they didn't dare to say anything else. Boss didn't want to ask anything else, and simply said, "Lead the way." Yes, the 2 women led the group into the palace. After going through multiple corridors and stairs, they arrived at the main hall of the palace. Nearly 100 divine descendants of different identities had already gathered here. Guqing Shan released her spiritual will to size them up one by one. Sitting on the far left was a man with a crown on his head. He looked gentle and seemed to be the master of this palace. However, there was no one around him. Instead, he was left at the edge. On his right were some people with powerful auras. These people were very strong. Guqing Shan even saw the general who had fought against the masked man earlier. Closer to the center were 12 white-haired old men. This was probably the Elder Council. The soul force fluctuations on their bodies were even more low-key and obscure than those generals. However, be in terms of strength, authority, or status in Calming Soul Country, the general could not compare to them. In the middle of all these people, there was a throne floating in mid-air. A veiled woman sat on the throne, holding a black book in her hand. Guqing Shan couldn't see her face clearly because of a veil with strange fluctuations. However, there was one distinctive feature that could be clearly seen even though it was covered by the veil. There was a blue flame of light between her eyebrows that was constantly burning and pulsating. Unlike the divinities who pretended to be gods, Guqing Shan could clearly sense the immense soul points she exuded. At this point, Guqing Shan was a bit disappointed. She wasn't the large-scale war system of humanity that Guqing Shan once saw in the age of old, Water God. Although her face couldn't be seen from how she was surrounded and protected by everyone, she was definitely the Water Pillar God. The black book in her hand was the famous book of the seabed. According to ancient legends and historical records, this book was capable of recording all knowledge of the world. Guqing Shan's group stood still in the middle of the hall. The Water Pillar God waved her hand to unleash a deep blue light. The light descended and enveloped Guqing Shan's group. Water God's gentle voice resounded. "Apostles who came from afar, as well as the guests you brought with you. You've worked hard." Boss slightly bowed. "I'm only following the oath of the past. It's nothing much." Water God smiled. Her gaze swept past Yi Fei Li, Zhang Youngho, and finally stopped on Guqing Shan and Lola. "Human male, can you tell me, who exactly is the entity that protected your identity?" Guqing Shan mimicked Boss's posture and bowed. "My apologies, I personally don't know anything about this." Water God turned to the Council of Elders. An old man from the Council of Elders respectfully spoke. "Venerable deity, I can sense that he is carrying a certain great entity's identity protection technique, but I do not know who it is. Seems like that is still a secret." Saying so, Water God didn't linger on this topic any longer and turned her gaze to Lola. "Human male, the girl next to you, is she your younger sister?" Water God asked again. "Indeed, she is my younger sister," Guqing Shan replied. "But why do I notice that the 2 of you aren't of the same race?" Water God asked again. Guqing Shan paused. "Indeed, I'm a human male, while Lola's race is a bramblebird." In front of powerful entities, the difference between races can be easily seen through at a glance. If Water God directly pointed this out, doesn't that mean that Guqing Shan was lying before? What would happen if one lied to a deity? The entire hall fell silent. The atmosphere seemed to have changed. Lola became nervous and couldn't help but glance at Guqing Shan. She didn't see any expression on Guqing Shan's face. One breath's worth of time later, Guqing Shan replied. He lowered his head, muttering with an embarrassed tone, "Who would have thought that you'd find out about this? This is actually an extremely secretive secret, but because of your question, I had no choice but to tell you this with the most sincere attitude possible." Everyone held their breaths as they looked at him. Gu Shan cleared her throat and said, "My younger sister and I are half-siblings from the same father, but different mothers." Water God's smile froze. The Elder Council and the others were also a bit surprised. Yi Fei couldn't help but look at him. Could it be true? He silently thought. Zhang Yongho's expression didn't change at all. Ever since he entered this place, he had already put on a pair of sunglasses, silently observing everyone in front of him. Gu Shan's words didn't affect him at all, but Lola was different. Hearing Gu Shan, she opened her eyes wide and her mouth slightly opened. "You can do that? This guy really is shameless when it comes to lying." However, as the Queen of Thorns, Lola had already trained her mind to be sharp, so she knew that Gu Shan wouldn't speak without thinking. What is he being cautious about? Lola's heart began to beat faster. Water God didn't look at them anymore and asked the Elder Council, "After countless years, this is the first time Calming Soul Country has new blood joining us. Discuss this and see what arrangements we should make." "Understood," the Elder Council replied, then began to discuss the arrangements for everyone. In front of them, Gu Shan's group could only silently wait for the result. Using this time, Boss released his mental power to silently communicate with Gu Shan. "What are you thinking about?" Gu Shan replied, "Something's wrong. You and I need to be careful. What's going on?" Boss couldn't help but ask. "This water god asked about my background as soon as we arrived, clearly hostile towards me. Just because of a single question from her, you're thinking that she's hostile? That's secondary. The most important thing is that the two female receptionists I told you to ask earlier gave me a warning." Boss recalled a bit and couldn't help but say, "They only said one thing." Other than Water God, the other three divinities had not announced this, so they didn't dare to make any guesses about the divinities. "Indeed, is there a problem with that?" "Indeed, their words implied that the other three pillar gods are here, but I know that isn't the case," Gu Shan continued. "And don't you think that Water God is paying a bit too much attention to Lola?" "Perhaps you're just too worried about Lola? That's not right. Perhaps you haven't seen the four pillar gods before, but I clearly know how mighty the four pillar gods are. As one of the four pillar gods, her scouting methods are too inferior." "You mean her?" "Indeed, she isn't one of the four pillar gods," Gu Shan replied. His inner sight scanned through the demis on the other side, as well as Water God. The gourd adorable was silently hovering in the air. P.S. Fellow readers, I'm Firework City. Recommend a free app that supports downloading, listening to books, zero ads, and multiple reading modes. Dear readers, please pay attention to it. Chapter 1069. Inside the conference hall, the various organizations were discussing the arrangements for Gu Shan's group. The Crown Man spoke. "Their sudden appearance in Calming Soul Country will surely draw a lot of curious gazes, which will cause trouble for them from now on," an elder asked. "Then, what does the king mean?" Gu Shan's group all turned to look. So this Crown Man was the king of Calming Soul Country. The king spoke. "Let them join the royal guards. The identities of the royal guards are kept secret, and as long as they are by my side, no one would dare to purposely investigate their background." The military officials went silent. The elders went silent. Most of the people in the conference hall remained silent. Only a few voices agreed. The king is right. The air was filled with an unspoken awkwardness. The king looked at everyone and smiled. "If no one has any objections, no, that would be inappropriate." The water pillar deity cut off the king's words. Everyone seemed to have regained their senses and spoke in unison. "Please, deity, grant us your decree." The king also bowed. "This humble one has not thought things through thoroughly. Please forgive me." Deity, the water pillar deity, didn't even bother to look at the king and spoke. "If they were brought here by the apostle, we should hold a grand ceremony to let everyone know of their existence." An elder from the Elder Council stepped forward, knelt down on one knee in front of Water God, and bowed, as the deity has decreed. "Then what kind of ceremony should we hold? After all, We have never welcomed outsiders before. That is indeed a problem. Please speak freely." After saying so, Water God smiled. "It's not appropriate for our guests to just watch us discuss our affairs. Take them away to rest, eat something, and change into their formal attire." Understood. Several maids stepped forward and led Gu Shan's group away from the conference hall. Water God stared at their backs while maintaining a gentle smile on her face. "We finally have some new blood," she sighed emotionally. Inside a spacious lounge, the walls were carved with intricate runes. The carpet was made from a soft white animal fur. Tea and snacks were prepared. Several maids stood around, ready to follow orders as soon as they noticed any problems. "There's still a lot of time before the meeting. Everyone, please have some snacks first." A maid carried a plate of desserts and came in front of everyone. None of them moved. In such an unfamiliar environment, who knew what kind of people they would meet with? How could they dare to eat other people's food? The maid revealed a regretful expression. Her lips slightly trembled as she said, "This dessert is meticulously made. Its taste is extraordinary." After saying that, he retreated and prepared to put the snacks on the table. Gu Shan looked at the maid's appearance and suddenly had a thought. "Give me one, please," he said. The maid stepped forward and picked up the tray. Gu Shan picked up a piece of dessert, waited until the gourd adorable confirmed that the dessert didn't contain any skills, then put it in her mouth. The food was really delicious. Gu Shan had no idea how it was made. At least, she had never seen it before. "The taste is really good. Excuse me, I want to know how you made this snack." Gu Shan raised the other pastry and asked the maid. The other maids were a bit surprised. Jang Young-ho then explained for him. He's a top-notch gourmet chef, renowned throughout the 900 million world layers. Everyone takes pride in eating his cooking. The maids all showed an expression of understanding. The maid from before revealed a proper smile and replied, "This is a dessert used by the royal family. The method of making it is confidential, and only the members of the royal family know about it. However, since you are a few esteemed guests, we will ask later and see if we can tell you the recipe." Gu Shan nodded. Then, "Thank you very much." He exchanged glances with the maid. The maid lowered her head and silently retreated. The few of them remained silent and continued to rest. A few moments later, the other maids came in with their formal attire. "Please change into your clothes," the maids all said in unison. Jang Young-ho went forward to touch it, then sent his voice to Gu Shan. "There are no issues. Of course, it would be strange if there were issues with something as simple as this," Gu Shan replied. One of the maids looked at Lola and said, "It's a bit inconvenient for you to change here. Please follow me to another room. We'll be back shortly." Lola looked at Gu Shan with a hesitant expression. Men and women were different, and she was a noble empress, so of course she couldn't change here. But she was a bit scared to leave Gu Shan. Gu Shan smiled and said, "Come, Big Brother has something to tell you." Lola walked up to him. Gu Shan raised her silent dusk cloak to block the maid's line of sight and covered Lola. One breath. The cloak unfolded. "Do you remember what I told you?" Gu Shan asked. Lola nodded. I will remember Big Brother's words. I definitely won't do anything rude here." She nodded to them and left with the maids. A few moments later, the maids seemed to have received some sort of information. They exchanged glances and bowed in unison. "Please change your clothes here. We'll be with you shortly." "Very well, go. You've worked hard." Gu Shan waved her hand dismissively. The maids retreated. Gu Shan then looked at Jang Young-ho. Jang Young-ho took a deep breath and spoke with a serious expression. "I do have a way to escape from various pursuits, but this is a sealed world. The enemy is too powerful. Even if we manage to avoid their traps, there's nowhere for us to run. It's fine, prepare now. They're most likely going to act soon." Gu Shan spoke in a low voice. "Got it." Jang Young-ho began to draw a card from the void of space. Boss had been silent until now, then asked, "You said that water deity investigated us. What did she find out?" Gu Shan replied, "I also want to know," saying so. He waved his hand to unleash a deep blue light, similar to the one that water deity unleashed in the conference hall. This brilliant light descended and enveloped everyone within it. Lines of glowing text appeared on the War God UI. You've temporarily installed the large-scale human war system's super detection function. You've obtained the following information: Jang Young-ho, human male, combat state. Peak, combat strength. Level 8. Yifei Li, world destroyer, combat state. Slightly exhausted, combat strength. Level 10. Guqing Shan, identity unable to be obtained, combat state. Peak, combat strength. Level 21. Boss identity. King of infinite origins, combat state. Absolutely weakened, combat strength. Level 99 Gu. Qing Shan quickly skimmed through everything. Strange. Although this water deity isn't a real water deity, she's equipped with the large-scale war system's super detection function. Who exactly is she? Asking about my identity right away. What exactly is she trying to do? Since there wasn't much time, Guqing Shan didn't have time to think further and told Boss. They might already know about your heavy wounds. Sensing the blue light, Boss understood what Guqing Shan was trying to say. He sighed. I originally wanted to use my identity to suppress them, but it seems I won't be able to. Guqing Shan nodded. Ing Hao, the situation isn't looking good. We need to begin right away. Jang Young-ho showed a card to everyone and said, "This is my trump card. Please cooperate with me." On the card, there was a drawing of an assassin wielding 2 daggers. Behind the assassin, his shadow manifested as a real person, doing the exact same thing as the assassin. Jang Young-ho tossed the card out and said, "This is the flesh puppet card. It can take the damage for us at the moment of death, displaying the corresponding wounds and turning into a real corpse. To activate it, I'll need 70% of my power, as well as a drop of your blood, to replicate your corpses." Guqing Shan released a sword phantom without hesitation, cut her finger, and sent a drop of blood into the card. The card glowed. Yifei Li also let out a drop of blood and sent it into the card. Boss hesitated. I've already used up the last of my blood. What do I do now? Jang Young-ho replied. Hair is fine as well. Boss scowled, then plucked out a strand of hair and put it into the card. Guqing Shan looked at Jang Young-ho. Jang Young-ho sensed it and nodded. I can activate it at any time, but my strength will be greatly reduced after activating it. I won't be able to participate in combat for now. It's fine, we just need to wait and see if that thing will actually happen, Guqing Shan said. He took out a piece of paper from his mouth and unfolded it in front of everyone. A line of text was written in divine script, frowny face. I can only buy a bit of time. Quickly escape, or you'll die. Below the words, a simple escape route was drawn. P.S. Fellow readers, I'm Firework City. Recommend a free app that supports downloading, listening to books, 0 ads, and multiple reading modes. Dear readers, please pay attention to it. Chapter 1070. Within a tranquil and fragrant room, Lola had changed into a formal dress. She looked at herself in the mirror in shock and asked, "Is anyone here?" No response. The maids were clearly standing not too far away from her just now, but they had already disappeared without a trace. Lola raised her voice and called out again, "Is anyone here?" Silence. Still no response. Suddenly, boom! An earth-shattering explosion, followed by intense tremors, resounded from the other side of the palace. A solemn voice resounded from above. It has been ascertained that the apostle had used a concealment technique to disguise several of the most terrifying monsters of the abyss, attempting to infiltrate our calming soul country. Now, all the evil monsters have been killed. Relay the divine decree of the 4 pillar gods from now on. Calming Soul Country will no longer allow any outsiders to enter. Lola was shocked. She quickly took a few steps forward and arrived at the door. As if sensing her arrival, a barrier made of runes appeared at the entrance. The runes manifested one after another, quickly covering the entire room. This place was actually a cage. Lola abruptly stopped. Standing in front of the fence, she was a bit hesitant. All of a sudden, another voice resounded from the void of space outside the palace. It was Boss's voice. Detestable 4 pillar gods, this place was clearly about to fall into my pocket, yet you dared to interfere with my plans. A female voice sighed and advised him, "Give up, apostle. With this water god here today, Your schemes will not succeed, die. Boss roared in fury. Blinding light shone through the gap in the window, illuminating the entire room. The sound of explosions followed. The battle had begun. The sounds of battle were gradually moving deeper and deeper into the clouds, moving further and further away from the ground. From the looks of it, both sides of the battle had left this palace. At first, Lola was a bit surprised, but after a bit of thought, she quickly regained her composure. She returned to her seat and silently sat there, waiting for a certain person's voice. At another location, the place where Gu Qingshan's group was originally staying, the entire room was blasted into ruins by the sudden and violent spell attack. This was a spell technique that had been ingeniously compressed. Its power had been increased by several times, but it wouldn't cause too much damage. It was only concentrated in a certain space. Therefore, the room was not completely destroyed. A few corpses were scattered messily on the ground. Gu Qingshan, Yifei Li, Zhang Yongho, and Boss. Their auras were completely gone, and their bodies were covered in all kinds of shocking wounds. The corpse lay quietly on the ground without any movement. The area near the room was shrouded in darkness. This was most likely a spell that completely blocked off the outside world's detection. Without the permission of the gods, no one could approach this place. In the darkness, two shadows appeared. They carefully examined the condition of the four corpses. After a long time, a black shadow let out a faint sigh. "Have you examined the apostle's corpse?" Someone replied in a low voice. "I have. He's already dead. I've also examined him. It seems he really is dead." The female voice slowed down, then continued with a prideful tone. "The apostle has completely lost his powers. Under the combined might of the four of us, he naturally wouldn't be able to hold on." The voice from before asked again, "Are you sure that girl is Queen of Thorns?" "I'm sure. I've specifically used my portion of the war system to investigate," the female voice replied. The voice continued, "Then that's good. The other matters have been arranged. This matter shall be concluded as such," the female voice joyfully said. "If we can capture Queen of Thorns, we won't have to worry about treasures anymore," the other voice worriedly said. "The apostle has lost his powers. Killing him isn't a big deal, but there's still an unidentified fellow. If he's discovered by the outside world, what should we do?" The female voice replied, "Humph. Regardless of who's behind him, the seal of Calming Soul Country was jointly created by the deities in the past. It definitely wouldn't be opened by a true deity alone from the outside world. No one would be able to send any information out from this place. And so, if we kill him, no one will know. No one from the outside world will know that we were the ones who did it here." The voice went silent for a while before agreeing. "Indeed, that person must be more or less related to a true deity. It wouldn't be good if he managed to discover our identities here," the female voice also added. "Killing him and obtaining Queen of Thorns, this is killing two birds with one stone." The person from before slowly calmed down and said, "I'll go take a look at them. They pretended to fight against the apostle. They've already gone far away," the female voice asked. "Wait a minute. Have you dealt with the matter with the king?" The voice scoffed. "He's nothing more than that. I've already killed the people he arranged." The goddess was pleased. "That's good. I'll first take care of the corpses, then go watch over Queen of Thorns and prevent her from escaping." The conversation ended. One of the figures disappeared from this ruin. Only one figure remained. This figure waved his hand, causing all the corpses on the ground to vanish without a trace. The figure stood there for a while longer. A former apostle ended up like this. How laughable and pitiful, the figure muttered to herself, then turned around and left. As soon as she left the darkness, her original appearance was revealed. Water deity. So it was her. She did not know why, but she stood still and paused for a while. Suddenly, she shook her head, seemingly feeling that she was being ridiculous, then turned around and left. Everything returned to silence. Not too long later, a voice suddenly called out, "Gongzi, what are you doing?" This was Shanu's doubtful voice. Gu Qingshan's voice followed. "This is called a human pyramid. Haven't you seen it before? But why do we have to do this? Lola's flower umbrella is only this big. We have to stack it up and let her stand on top of it. Only then can it cover all of us? Lola's voice suddenly came. Gu Shan, you're mistaken. My shelter of infinite worlds doesn't require one to be under the umbrella. As long as they touch the umbrella, they'll receive the effects of shelter of infinite worlds. Ah, why didn't you say so earlier? I thought you were standing like that for some sort of special formation. Who would have thought you were just trying to hide your tracks right after that? Lola suddenly appeared in the air. She lightly landed on the ground. The scene in the air appeared. Yi Fei was standing still. Jang Young-ho was standing on his shoulder. Boss was standing on Jang Young-ho's shoulder. And Gu Shan was standing on Boss's shoulder. Originally, Lola was standing on Gu Shan's shoulder. Lola was holding her umbrella, using Shelter of Infinite Worlds to ensure that no one was discovered. Before Lola officially received Shelter of Infinite Worlds, she was already able to use this ability to avoid Tree's frenzied attempts to capture her. In history, there was even a Bramblebird King who used this ability to enter the unending abyss of broken worlds without dying, and even brought back the armor of the old gods. That's why using this ability to deceive everyone couldn't be more suitable. Lola stood on the ground and opened her umbrella. She disappeared without a trace, making it impossible for anyone to sense her. All right, everyone come and touch the umbrella. That way you won't be discovered. Her voice resounded from the void of space. Everyone reached their hands out and touched the void of space. They all disappeared one after another. Boss's voice sounded a bit prideful. How convenient. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have played the human pyramid thing. Yi Fei Li's voice also resounded. I know, right? You guys are too heavy. I'm at the bottom. You're already complaining about how heavy we are? You know, I've only used 70% of my strength to disguise myself as a corpse, Jang Young-ho complained. Yi Fei Li explained, it's not anything else. I'm just afraid they'll be too high. It won't be easy to go out at this point. Shanu's voice stopped their complaints. Gongzi, didn't you tell me to wait there? Why did you summon me back? Because there's no need. I think I know what they want to tell you, Gu Shan replied. But as soon as I return, they'll notice that Lola is gone. That makes sense. Let's go. Where to? I have a map here. There shouldn't be any problems. Their voices slowly went away, leaving this ruin. All of a sudden, an angry voice resounded across the entire palace. Immediately seal this place off. Don't let anyone in or out. Water God. She gave the order again. At this point, Gu Shan's group had already gone through several secret paths, passed through several hidden mechanisms, and arrived at a secret underground passage of the palace. Gu Shan was holding a piece of paper, looking at the simple map on it as she walked at the very front of the group. Shanna was at the very back. Gu Shan, aren't you afraid that the contents of this piece of paper are a lie? Lola asked. Gu Shan replied, if they wanted to kill us, what they did just now was more than enough. This piece of paper is nothing more than an unnecessary move. So we're only here to observe the situation before we decide what to do next. Boss raised his hand. I'll say this first. If you run into a battle, I'm afraid I won't be able to help much, Jang Young-ho added. Me too. I've already used up 70% of my strength. I can only snipe a bit. Yi Fei Li hesitantly spoke. I'll try my best, but everyone here is too strong. I'm not a match for them at all. Gu Shan looked at them, then at Lola. Lola consoled her. Gu Shan, don't worry. Although I can't fight, I'm very good at hiding. I won't be a burden to you like they are. Gu Shan replied without changing her expression. I don't feel relieved at all. They reached the end of the secret passage. A corpse was lying there. As they looked closer, they saw that it was the maid from before. The maid who brought Gu Shan pastries. She was already dead. It's clear that she originally wanted to stay here to receive everyone. Gu Shan sighed dejectedly. The voice that spoke to Water God before said that they had dealt with the king's arrangements, most likely referring to this woman. Everyone else also went silent. What do we do now? Boss asked. Gu Shan replied. We can't stay here for too long. Fei Li, Yi Fei Li replied, then walked forward to observe the corpse. She hasn't been dead for too long. Her soul is still here, Yi Fei Li muttered. He drew the forgetting river soul flaying hook, lightly touched the maid's corpse, then abruptly pulled it back. From the corpse, a translucent silhouette of a woman was pulled out by the long hook. This was the woman's soul. P.S. Fellow readers, I'm Firework City, recommending a free app that supports downloading, listening to books, zero ads, and multiple reading modes. Dear readers, please pay attention to it. Chapter 1071. The passage was dark and gloomy, giving off a faint stench of blood. The maid's body was still lying on the ground. A faint humanoid figure appeared from Yi Fei Li's hook. The female figure gave off a faint glow, displaying the unique characteristics of a soul. This was her soul. When her soul first appeared, she was still a bit confused, but when she saw her own body and the 5 people standing in front of her, she slowly understood her situation. Indeed, I was killed. The maid was stunned. She slowly knelt down in front of her body, wanting to touch it. Her hand went through the body, but couldn't feel anything. The maid's expression was full of despair, her hands covering her face as she sobbed. Zhang Young-ho turned to Yi Fei Li. Yi Fei Li turned to Gu Qing-shan. Gu Qing-shan shook her head and gestured for everyone to wait. When a person first discovers that they're dead, that's when their mental state would be shaken the most. Giving her a bit of time to accept this fact and calm herself down is necessary. Everyone stood there silently and waited. The maid was sobbing, occasionally muttering a few words in a low voice. But no one could hear her voice at all. She was a soul. A soul was a unique state, having just left the human realm and not yet gone to any other world. Without a home to return to, their voices couldn't be heard. Only Yi Fei Li could listen to the voices of all living things, so she was seriously listening. Yi Fei Li's expression slowly turned sorrowful. What did you find out? Gu Qing-shan asked in a low voice. It's nothing. I just feel like her life is quite pitiful. While Yi Fei Li was talking, his expression suddenly changed. He raised his hand and gestured for everyone to be silent. We'll talk about this later. Don't make a sound. I think I heard something. Everyone remained silent. Yi Fei Li crouched down, pressed her ear to the ground, and appeared to be listening. His expression became more and more serious. What's wrong? Zhang Young-ho couldn't help but ask. Yi Fei Li quickly said, There's a voice that I've never heard before approaching this place from the depths of the earth. Roughly what? It seems to be a soul-type existence. It has a will to eat. Gu Qing-shan immediately said, I'm afraid it will be a battle. Everyone get ready. Everyone responded loudly, Yes. Shanu immediately turned back into a sword and was held in his hand. Gu Qing-shan then drew the earth sword from the void of space and gripped it tightly. The heaven sword and Chao-Yin sword appear behind him, silently floating. Gu Qing-shan assumed a defensive stance, circulating all the spiritual energy in her body. He was fully prepared for battle. Suddenly, Gu Qing-shan noticed that there was no movement around. He turned around to take a look. Yi Fei Li, Zhang Young-ho, Boss, and Lola had all disappeared. Where are the rest of you? He couldn't help but shout. Boss's voice came from the void of space, sounding a bit embarrassed. About that, we're going to hide together with Lola so that we don't get more injured in battle. Gu Qing-shan was speechless. He didn't have time to say anything else, because the sound of holy music suddenly resounded from the ground below. Rays of resplendent light and shadows emerged from the ground. This was a group of people wearing long robes. Gu Qing-shan noticed that their bodies were translucent, but the waves they gave off were different from ghosts. Gu Qing-shan noticed that their bodies were translucent, but the fluctuations they gave off were different from the fluctuations of ghosts. Time is up. Please follow us back to the land of soul's rest, the white-robed old man spoke. Time's up. Please follow us back to the land of soul rest, the white-robed elder said. She quickly spoke a few words, then bowed to the old man with a pleading expression. She opened her mouth and quickly said a few words. She kept bowing to the old man with a pleading expression. Gu Qing-shan could hear the old man's voice, but she couldn't hear what he said. She could only point at her ears behind her. Yi Fei Li's voice immediately rang in his mind. She's saying that she can't go to calming soul country right now because her only child is only 4 years old, and is currently sick. If she leaves now, no one will be able to take care of her child. As Gu Qingshan listened, she saw that there was a new change in the field. The old man let out a long sigh and said gently, "Life and death are not things that anyone can decide for themselves. Your child will have his own fate. Whether it is good or bad, it is not something you can worry about. You must understand that you're already dead." The woman shook her head desperately and knelt on the ground, continuously praying for something. The old man showed a hint of impatience. He spoke with a grim expression. "Listen well, no undead can refuse the invitation of calming soul country. This is the fate of a demi, as well as the fate of calming soul country as a whole. Take her away," the old man called out to the people behind him. Several people in robes stepped forward and lifted the woman up from the ground. The woman sobbed in despair. "What did she say just now?" Gu Qingshan asked. "She said that her only wish was to see her child one more time," Yi Feili replied. Hearing that, Gu Qingshan fell into thought. At this point, the group of transparent entities had caught the woman. Divine music resounded. These people were chanting an incomprehensible poem as their bodies slowly sank into the ground. As they were about to leave, Gu Qingshan suddenly clapped her hands and said, "I don't think she can leave yet." "Very well," Yi Feili replied. From the void of space, a long hook exuding a faint yellow aura abruptly flew out. With a single swing, the hook pulled the woman back. Originally, the woman had completely lost her mind. Her body was like an empty shell, unable to react to anything. But when she found herself back where she stood, she froze. Looking at the long hook, her expression slowly returned. "I still haven't gone to calming soul country." The woman abruptly turned to look at Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan smiled at her and asked, "Do you still remember me?" The woman nodded. Gu Qingshan replied, "Thank you for the dessert. We'll talk again in a bit." He stepped forward, shielding the woman behind him. In front of him, the transparent robed people were coldly staring at him. The white-robed old man spoke in a low voice. "Regardless of who you are, interfering with the normal order of life and death is a great taboo of calming soul country." With an apologetic expression, Gu Qingshan lightly curtsied and said, "I respect the customs and customs of every world, so I don't want to offend you. But I have something very important to discuss with her, so I hope you can accommodate me a bit." "Accommodate? Death has never accommodated anyone." The old man angrily shouted. Of course, I understand that, so I'm willing to pay a small price." "Do you accept money or treasures?" Gu Qingshan asked. He reached his hand out and opened his palm. From the void of space, countless glittering metal coins appeared from his hand, then fell to the ground with a series of clinking noises. The metal coins quickly piled up into a small mountain as tall as a person. Gu Qingshan stood next to the metal coins and spoke. "Although none of you have any use for these, who doesn't have children or grandchildren? We're all elders here, so it's only natural for us to worry about them. After all, whether it's cultivation, marriage, or buying a house, children will always need money. Coincidentally, I have coins with unique powers here, all of them good stuff from the strife zones, as well as the hard currency of the 900 million world layers, enough for your children and grandchildren to live without worries." He reached out his other hand. Countless armors, weapons, jewelry, as well as summoning contracts and magic scrolls appeared in his hand, then fell to the ground. These treasures quickly piled up to form a river. "Everyone, if you don't like money, there are also treasures that people can only dream of here. Every single item here is priceless, whether it's giving it to someone or using it yourself. They're all worth a lot of face. Some of the best ones can even be used as family heirlooms. Everyone, I don't mean to offend you. The reason why I'm offering these treasures is to ask for a bit of time. Allow me to talk to her for a bit and clear up the unfinished business from before. After that, you can follow your own rules. How about it?" Gu Qingshan stood in the middle of the mountain of coins and the river of treasures and spoke with utmost sincerity. Please remember this book's domain name. M. Chapter 1072. The Secret Passage. Everyone stared at Gu Qingshan with strange expressions on their faces. "Are you trying to make a deal with me?" The white-robed old man asked. Very much so. I sincerely need this soul. You can name your price, Gu Shan happily replied. The white-robed old man's gloomy expression faded a bit and fell into contemplation. Gu Shan just looked at him without saying anything. A moment of silence. But this silence was too fragile and could be broken at any moment. Water God had sealed off the palace and was currently searching for them, so it wouldn't be long before he found this place. The people behind the white-robed old man were restless, seemingly ready to attack at any moment. Gu Shan could even sense the undisguised, almost tangible malice coming from the white-robed old man. But he didn't try to hide it at all. Does he not know how to hide it? Or does he not care? Gu Shan's thoughts flickered quickly. Yifei Li silently sent her voice through inner sight. There's a huge soul activity underground. I can sense billions of souls moaning in pain. Gu Shan's expression didn't change at all and simply nodded, expressing that she understood. This was truly a strange existence, to be able to control a soul body to such an extent. Then, what exactly does it represent in Calming Soul Country? Gu Shan randomly picked up a round plate with tiny text carved on it from the pile of treasures on the ground and showed it to the other party. Take a look. These treasures all have various miraculous uses. As long as you agree, they're all yours. He tapped the round plate with his hand and said, If you don't like these things, I have other treasures as well. As long as you agree, the white-robed old man suddenly asked. So your goal is to communicate with this soul for a bit longer? Gu Shan immediately followed up. Of course, if you are willing to trade this soul to me, I will pay a higher price. The white-robed elder looked at the mountain of coins, then looked at the treasures on the ground, and suddenly asked, Do you have something like a soul armament? Gu Shan clapped her hand and smiled. Although soul artifacts are precious, I happen to have a lot of them. I don't believe it, the white-robed elder said. Soul tools were the most precious tools, and their power was boundless. The twin swords heaven and earth were the supreme soul artifacts of the eternal abyss. Within the 900 million world layers, the most valuable items were soul artifacts. The appearance of each soul artifact was enough to cause a bloodbath in billions of worlds. I will make you believe me, Gu Shan said. He made a grabbing motion in the air and caught a soul tool from Lola before tossing it to the white-robed old man. The white-robed old man caught it, put it in his hand, and gripped it tightly. Countless green lines flashed in the void, cutting deep holes in the walls around the secret passage. This was a wind-type soul armament with blades on both the front and the back. The white-robed elder's brows relaxed. It is indeed a soul artifact. As he spoke, he placed the soul tool into his mouth and swallowed it. Gu Shan noticed that the old man's body swelled up slightly, but soon returned to normal. What do you think? Can we trade now? Gu Shan asked. The old man looked at him with a cautious gaze and spat out 2 words, yes. Boom! A series of explosions came from behind the secret passage. That was the direction where Gu Shan's group came from. Within the lingering smoke, a figure appeared on the path where Gu Shan's group came from. After a few flashes, she appeared in front of everyone. Water God. She glanced at Gu Shan, then at the white-robed elder and declared, I want this person dead. The white-robed elder looked at Gu Shan. Gu Shan immediately replied, Only I can retrieve my precious soul artifacts. I trust that you're also capable of this retrieval technique. Only the master of certain space can activate it. The white-robed elder paused briefly, then told Water God, I'm currently making a trade with him. We'll talk about him later. Water God replied, No, this person must die. We've already decided his fate. I'm currently making a trade with him. That great one needs something from him, the white-robed elder replied. Water God's expression changed and coldly scoffed. That great one? Since when did you dare to use her name to offend the will of the 4 of us? Boundless divine might flowed from her body. Unlike the divinities, this was a true soul points tide. This power was enough to destroy all things. But the white-robed elder didn't back down and scowled. Stand down. Although it was a plain sentence, his voice had already turned into a woman's voice. This voice was unclear, as if he didn't speak often or wasn't familiar with human language. Hearing this voice, Water God was a bit surprised. She slowly realized. Water God retracted her presence, lowered her head and knelt down, respectfully replying, "Yes, Godmother." Looking at Guqing Shan one last time, Water God quickly retreated from the secret passage. "Ah, thank you. I must say, your subordinates are very responsible. They've always wanted to kill me," Guqing Shan said. The white-robed elder stared at her. "I want a soul artifact," Guqing Shan replied. "Then give this woman's soul to me. How many soul artifacts are you prepared to exchange for her?" "I want all of your soul artifacts," the white-robed elder replied. "What kind of trade?" Guqing Shan asked. "In the form of a contract. Her soul will belong to you, and all of your soul artifacts will belong to me," the white-robed elder replied. He took out a parchment from his mouth and tossed it to Guqing Shan. The parchment hovered in the air, unfurling itself in front of Guqing Shan. A contract was written on it using divine script. This was a very ancient script, as recorded in the Spire Keeper's book. It was a script left behind by a prehistoric civilization that had almost never been used again in the 900 million world layers. Guqing Shan carefully read through it. Just by looking at this contract, it was indeed a fair trade. But this contract didn't say anything about his safety. "You sign the contract," the white-robed elder spoke with an emotionless voice. Guqing Shan shook her head. "There's no problem with the content, but there's too little to trade," the white-robed elder impatiently replied. "I only want a soul artifact." Guqing Shan asked, "What about your soul?" The white-robed elder looked at him and mocked. "You only have a single soul," Guqing Shan tried asking. "But I know how to go to other secret sealed locations like the Isle of Void Sacrifice, the Bottom of the Abyss, and the Starlight Empire." "How laughable. All of those places have conditions to enter. With your feeble strength, you wouldn't be able to do that," the white-robed elder casually replied. Behind him, the faces of the people in robes slowly became blurred. They swayed a few times in place before retreating underground. Following that, before Guqing Shan could even react, several dozen long black tentacles suddenly reached out from the ground next to him. These tentacles directly bound Guqing Shan, restraining him in place. "Sign the contract, or die right now," the white-robed elder spoke from afar. Guqing Shan didn't seem to hear him at all, only looking at the tentacles around him in surprise. From these tentacles, he could faintly make out the figures and faces of those people from before, but their silhouettes were slowly fading away. As Guqing Shan took a step forward, he was pressed down by several black tentacles and slowly pushed back. He couldn't help but mutter, "So all of you souls are living inside the body of a monster. How unexpected. I can't waste any more time." Force him to sign the contract. Sell the soul artifact. Kill him. Steal his soul. He could already foresee this process. Guqing Shan's eyes became sharp. His inner sight circled around the old man and activated Shadow Shift. A few moments later, Guqing Shan's expression changed. Shadow Shift didn't work. That can't be right. Shadow Shift can't be affected by any restraining technique. Unless these tentacles are one with the old man. They are all part of a certain gigantic monster. Shadow Shift naturally couldn't switch places with a part of a certain entity's body. This was the only logical explanation. Guqing Shan's mind quickly turned and understood. He immediately changed his strategy. A bright blue-white arc of lightning abruptly blossomed within the cluster of black tentacles. Lightning thaumaturgy. Dream jolt. All the black tentacles froze in place. Guqing Shan drew the Earth Sword and swung it. Earth's choice. The tentacles were all swept away by the pale blue sword phantom. The soul points displayed on the War God UI instantly decreased by over 700,000. Guqing Shan couldn't care less about losing soul points. At this point, his life was the most important. He released his inner sight to observe, only to see that the white-robed elder was also twitching in place, unable to move at all. Indeed, the white-robed elder was one with these black tentacles. Gu Shan leapt out from the broken tentacles. At the same time, the dim yellow hook had already taken the woman's soul into the void of space. Gu Shan, hurry! Lola's worried voice resounded from the void of space. Gu Shan reached her hand into the void of space, tossed the round plate in front of herself with her other hand, and quickly tapped it with her other hand. Instantly, the round plate gave off a flash of light. The miniature warp formation had been activated. The circular light of the formation surrounded the void of space and disappeared in a flash. One breath's worth of time later, the void of space was still empty, but the entities inside had already been warped away. The white-robed elder didn't know what happened at all. He only saw Gu Shan activating a round plate before vanishing without a trace. At another location, the room that Gu Shan's group stayed in before. This place had already been reduced to rubble. The two pillar gods had also thoroughly checked this place and left. Everything was normal. Perhaps sensing that there was no danger, Boss's voice suddenly resounded. What now? Sure, this was Gu Shan's voice. The void of space returned to silence. They had switched to telepathy to communicate. What now? Quickly leave. Why are you in such a hurry? Didn't we already escape? It's already been angered by me. Let's find a safe place and see what exactly it is. The voice disappeared. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths. The entire palace complex shook as if a violent earthquake was occurring. Tens of thousands of black tentacles pierced through the walls of the palace and shot to the sky. These tentacles continued to move around the palace. In the blink of an eye, the entire palace was flattened. A deep and furious roar resounded from deep underground. Damn it, PS. Fellow readers, I'm Fireworks City. Recommend a free app that supports downloading, listening to books, 0 ads, multiple reading modes. Dear readers, please pay attention to it. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.